I'm taking over Army and Navy at the same time, and the first team to get a championship wins. With the Army-Navy game today at 3 p.m. Eastern time on CBS, I figured this would be the best time to rebuild both programs, where stuff like the transfer portal and redshirting some of their players is basically a foreign concept to these schools. That's going to make winning a championship very challenging, especially when you consider we'll be running the triple option. But starting this rebuild in the year 2030, Navy is a little bit of an early advantage. Antoine Irving is a freshman quarterback with elite development. The only downside for him is he will never be able to get any quicker throughout his career with Navy. Meanwhile, Army will be starting a senior quarterback with a developing freshman right behind him. On the recruiting front, the Black Knights have a very specific strategy, going after as many athletes as they can find for their triple option offense. While Navy, on the other hand, is trying to make history with this class, going after multiple four-star prospects. They don't typically sign there, but they're trying to land them. They're also going after some agile offensive linemen. Now, I think it's safe to say that this will be a very long season for both of these teams before they face off against each other at the end of the year. The USAA will serve as the presenting sponsor of the Army-Navy game and this video as they continue their partnership with EA and College Football 26. Long before that can happen, though, these teams have a lot of other games to get through that we're going to quickly talk about. Alongside the players that they have a chance of actually signing, as you can see, Navy's got a lead on some of these 4-stars, but they can't get them in for a visit anytime soon. The soonest it could be is against Notre Dame in Week 9, but they're probably not going to win. So with that in mind, if they're going to shock the nation and get some of these 4-stars, they're going to have to win them over with stuff like academic prestige, which is really high, just like Army's is. And for the Black Knights, they're going after just one 4-star prospect. He's a gym, he's a corner, he's out of Texas, and this is the hard sell they got on him. A visit is scheduled for Texas State this week. So this feels like a pretty important game for us to hop into, especially since they've started 0-2, which is why I'm going to do it. Every season, I'm going to allow myself to hop into one regular season game for both of these schools. And until we get our athletes in here, this could be a long season as we're trying to run the triple option down the field in the final 3 minutes, trailing by 6. A touchdown wins us this game. I'm not sure how we're going to get to a national championship, but we really just need to find a way to recruit some huge athletes, and it's going to be 4th and 2. Instead of just running the football here, we are going to throw it. We're going to look underneath, and it's going to be brought in. But we are not getting very far. There's only 2 minutes left in this game now, and we still have a long way to go down the field, which we're going to continue to improve upon. The pitch just isn't getting us much. That is going to make it 3rd and 11. We are going to find Boquet out of the backfield, who makes 2 guys miss. He's still on his feet, and he is going to keep hopes alive for the Black Knights in this one. Maybe we should have just kept that one with our QB. Senior Terrell Biggs only has 84 speed, so we're going to be looking to find some quarterbacks that are faster than him. But as a senior, he's the best that we have to lean on for the time being. 2nd and 14, we're going to pull it with him, and now we need them to bite down so we can pitch it out. One guy to make miss. It's going to be 3rd and 8. And this is where we might need to mix in some play action, which is going to get us a guy open. But they were prepared for us to roll out there. 4th and 8, game on the line, and it's over. If Army was going to sign a 4-star, this one was a must-win. And it's going to cause the Black Knights to fall to 0-3, but there are also athletes on our board that could be much better. As for Navy, in their first game of the season, they put up 10 points against an FCS school. They were only able to win by 3, so Antoine Irving with 73 passing yards and then another 16 rushing yards on the ground needs to be better there. But I'm not sure they're too worried about that whenever they're getting to sign a 4-star corner while their rivals Army are failing to. I'm actually a little bit surprised that he committed after USF beat him 40-0, but he did. And another huge game for both of these schools that we're using in this video is their game against Air Force. It's the 3rd military school at the FBS level. That means before we make it to the Army-Navy game this year, this is a great one for us to hop into with the midshipmen. But I have to say, for as high hopes as I had in this game, they've literally just been the better team. I thought we would be able to take down Air Force, but instead they ran the ball super well. They beat us 24-6 in the Air Force Navy game. And truth be told, the rest of the season is setting up to be pretty ugly for both of these programs, but at least we're getting to recruit some fullbacks in a rebuild. If you were unaware, Army has 5 national championships in football, while Navy has 1. So both of those schools are striving to make that happen again, and I really like what Navy is doing recruiting-wise so far. They might not be getting athletes, but they're about to get some 4-stars. As for their quarterback out of this class, Shamir Wilkes is no one to get excited about. He has 80 throw power, 79 speed, but they have a freshman quarterback with elite development. They don't need him. While Army, on the other hand, would really like to find one, Teddy Overshone is the option they've settled for. He cares about playing time, 84 throw power, 82 speed, but as you can see, we're going to be in a tight battle against UMass. And Ronald Griffin did eventually settle on SMU, which makes sense. He's a 93 4-star gym cornerback from Texas. He probably was not going to come to Army. Of course, the whole goal of this video, though, is to eventually make prospects like that want to come here as we fight for a national championship versus Navy. And so far, the midshipmen strategy in recruiting, signing some of the best players they can find, is paying off. I couldn't believe it, but they also got strong safety Xavier Sapp. And I think it's because their head coach has decided he's going to be a tactician that is fully dependent upon his defense. That is where all of his focus goes. Meanwhile, if we look over what we've done with Army's coach, it's the same type of build, except this time the focus has to be on offense, making the quarterback as good as possible, and then making sure our receivers can block, our running backs can block, that they can break tackles, our offensive line holds up well. It's all a part of the plan at Army, who was just able to sign 3-star quarterback Teddy Overshone. And here's the thing, more offensive players are set to come in for them extremely soon, especially on the offensive line. Tennessee was actually going after Alonzo until they just pulled out, which is a very good sign because we wanted him. It's really hard to talk up Army's recruiting class though, whenever we see that Navy was able to bring in 4 4-stars, and one of them is a receiver. I think it's important to question though, is this even going to fit their offensive scheme? It's very important for both of these teams that the players they're signing do fit their scheme, because as you can see, they're currently sitting at 1-10, both of them at the bottom of the American. As after Navy was able to take down an FCS school for their first game, they've lost 10 straight before this Army-Navy game. On Army's side of things, they didn't have a game against an FCS school where they could pick up a win, but they played UAB, which is basically one. They beat them 10-7, so that's a nice win for the program. But it does stink to see one of the athletes that they wanted on their offensive line is just getting ripped away by Miami. This game is what it all comes down to. The important one for both of these teams. We have a full weekend set aside for them. I'm actually going to get to attend it for the first time in person this year. I am so stoked. And like I said, this is being played in real life today, so make sure to tune into it at 3 p.m. Eastern time on CBS. I think it's really cool how USAA has worked with me on this video to continue celebrating this timeless tradition and reach fans new and old to get excited about tuning in for America's game today. This is one of the many ways USAA shows their support for anyone that's active duty, veteran military members, and their families. And I'll tell you what, with 2 minutes left in this game, we got ourselves a good one. Navy's coming out throwing the football to a 3rd and 1. They have not been able to score in this game, but they're really going for it. If they're going to take down Army here, they need to be successful. We have to spectate because this is a fair rebuild between these two teams. 4th and 2. Looks like Antoine's going to have plenty of time. He sends it, and it's a 50-50 ball that is caught on his head. Army just gives up the touchdown, and this is how Navy might be able to win the Army-Navy game this year. Keep in mind, they have a freshman that's supposed to be extremely talented, so Army needs to be able to take him down while he is at his worst. If not, it could be a long few seasons for them after this year, especially since nobody should be transferring out. On 3rd and 11, they still need to get at least 40 yards if they want to even have a chance at hitting a field goal. That's not going to do it. So it seems like this year we have a winner of the Army-Navy game, and it's going to be the midshipmen. That was exactly how Antoine Irvin was hoping the first game against them was going to go. The freshman could beat him 3 more times before he graduates. And there's a lot of history between these two teams because when they play in real life this year, it's their 126th meeting. I'm excited to meet some of y'all this weekend as well at the first ever Army-Navy game rendezvous point. It's going to be a 2-day fan fest at the Harbor Place Mall. But let's talk some of these season stats. So Bobby Lemur, the senior running back, was the best running back on Navy's roster. They also had a fullback go for 241 yards. Antoine Irving, only 1.7 yards per carry. And we're still going to discuss some receiving stats during this video, but don't ever expect somebody to get too many yards. As for Army, Terrell Biggs threw a lot less interceptions, but he was a senior with more experience. What matters is how many rushing yards he has. He actually led the team as a quarterback, which is what we want to see receiving wise. Again, it's not going to be good for either one of these offenses. But I'll tell you what, important coordinator hires are coming up because both of these programs have gotten rid of their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator. It turns out whenever you go 2-10 and 1-11, you don't keep around some of those guys. And it's going to be really interesting to see which team ends up getting better over time because they have different strategies for how they're building. Since Army is more so focusing on their offense than defense, I think it is hilarious that they might as well just take away Navy's offensive coordinator that they just got rid of. His scheme fit well, but Mark Ryan's a potential hire for Navy, who is a talent developer as a level 43. I can't believe that they pulled this off, but they actually signed him. And so no matter who Army hires, they're not going to be able to beat out this duo that Navy just brought in for their coordinators. At the moment, it just seems like the Black Knights are at so many disadvantages. But I think it might be a while before these teams are competing for a championship, so that shouldn't be an issue. I think the hardest part is every season we are going to see so many seniors depart from these teams that were starters. And that goes for both sides. I just can't believe how many special teams players that the midshipmen had. They had 5 of their 6 best guys all on that side of the ball. I think it's really obvious that both of these rosters could be much better than they've been though, which will allow us to take these teams to new heights. So that's all we're going to work on, signing as many 3-stars as possible to fit our schemes. And remember, since we're not using the transfer portal, it does really limit what type of options options we have. It's not going to be possible for us to turn around these teams as quickly as I can turn around some other programs, since we're only going through the high school ranks, and a lot of these guys won't see the field until they've developed in the juniors or seniors. But we have got to lay the foundation correctly for both of these programs. Army only was able to sign one guy that had star dev or higher, and that guy is going to be Deontay Kirkland, pure possession athlete, though he might not play tight end. He could be anywhere. Teddy Overshone, the quarterback, has impact. And class ranking wise, Army was below Navy, coming in at number 44, which is still really good. No matter what way you stack it, 35 3-stars for either one of these teams is incredible. It looks like Navy was able to sign 31 prospects. We lost out on a couple of battles, but that's perfectly fine. George Tandy, a 3-star edge, has star development, so he is going to be a beast on our defensive line. And then we have the 4 4-stars, normal dev on the receiver, normal dev on the strong safety, Sam Donovan is impact, and then star dev on the 4-star corner. That recaps Navy's class, who is actually number 33 in the country. If we compare that to our conference, Navy and Army signed the best 2 in our conference. I think that's a really good sign of what's to come in the future. We got some 88 speed running backs, which is way quicker than anything Navy was working with last year, though I will say their receiving core is still extremely depleted. And on the Army side of things, since their main goal is just recruiting as many athletes as possible that could fit their program, there are so many that need to be changed positions. You'll see that Teddy Overshone, though, is coming in as a 74 overall quarterback, so he might start as a true freshman. I don't think there will be any scenarios where we use red shirts in this video either, since they typically don't in real life. There shouldn't be any unless the computer automatically does it, but I don't think they do for military schools. And the only way that new quarterback's not starting for Army next year is if 6'4" Harvey Mills has a very good offseason, where his accuracy could get a lot better, and he could also get faster. It took a long time, but eventually we got to training results. Players like Antoine Irvin were able to get their accuracy up a decent bit while also becoming much better on the ground. He now has stuff like gold sidestep, so he's going to be very hard to stop as a sophomore. And I could not believe some of the jumps that I saw from this Navy defense, but you have to think they have a defensive-minded coach and they have a talent developer, which has really helped them out. As for Army, they also saw some really insane jumps, so I'm starting to think that the computer just wasn't spending the skill points as I advanced so many years into the future, which is definitely what happened. We're not going to have auto-progress players on for this video because I want to take over some of these guys' development, but for most of them, I'm still auto doing it anyway. For 69 overall Navy and 68 overall Army, they're looking to see some jumps over their conference opponents this season, but as we get to the top of the American, you'll see most of these teams are still better than them on paper. So it might not be as great of a season either team is looking for. What we have done, though, with our Navy head coach, I just made it my dad, so it's not too James Bordeaux, is they have gone down the scouting route, so they're going to be able to scout players a little bit quicker. While for Army's side of things, it's still just going to be about getting as many athletes into the building as they possibly can. Interestingly enough, we're also not going to start freshman Teddy Overshone. We're going to start 89 speed Harvey Mills just because he is the fastest quarterback. He should be the best quarterback for running the triple option. I'm not sure if this is going to change next season, but he also put on 5 pounds during the offseason, so that's why I'm willing to put him out there right now. And what I find interesting about Army, but not Navy, is Navy's locked into a game against Notre Dame every season, while Army is not. That'll give the Black Knights a much better chance at getting to the playoffs in the future. They won their first game, by the way, against FAU. It looks like Harvey Mills threw for 133 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was better through the air than he was on the ground. And I find that odd because for both of these teams, we are staying in the option playbooks. It feels like every season I will be looking for quarterbacks though. Marquez Luck is the kid that we want for Army in the future. 83 speed, 88 acceleration. Kansas State wants him as well. There's just a bunch of athletes that we're putting hours into. That's really all that it is. It's a completely different approach than Navy, who is going after multiple 4-stars, and not just 4-stars, but 4-star gyms for their defense. All of those defensive backs could really take the program to a new height. While Shakir Bradbury, as a 3-star gym running back, might only have 84 speed, but as an elusive bruiser, he would be running through kids his whole career. As of right now, both teams only have 400 hours to spend a week. They're both 1.5-star prestige. And if a week 5 visit goes right for them against FAU, they might be able to sign all of these guys, which is incredible. Before they get to that game though, they're going to have to take on UTSA. And that's where they've picked up their first loss of the season, but they're facing the team that Army just took down. It's a no-brainer to me that this needs to be the game we hop into with the midshipmen this season. And the neat thing about using some of these military schools is there's a lot of alternate jerseys that we have that we can select from too. One thing I have to say is our offense is clearly getting better. We've been able to put up 21 points on FAU, and Irving is going to fight to the 1. He isn't the biggest quarterback in the world, but he is effective as a 2-possession lead is coming up. And the real thing that made all of this possible was the way that our defense played throughout this game. Now, that right there wasn't a great example because we dropped the interception, but we've beaten the same team as Army. So it's hard to tell which team is better this season so far, and there's the first 4-star commit. Keep in mind, these players were interested in coming to Navy at the very beginning of the season, so it was very easy to put them on our board and start having some success. And it seems to be more success than what Army's had recruiting so far, because even though they signed quarterback Marquez Luck, they've not been as lucky with some of these athlete thumpers that they wanted at linebacker. As you can see, their play style just isn't good enough, so they're unable to put more hours into them. And that's a big difference maker on whether or not they're going to be able to land those recruits. They actually started the season 3-0 before losing to Rice, East Carolina, and Tulane. They're about to go on the road to 1-7 Air Force. And it feels like a great opportunity for Army to bounce back because they could be eligible for a bowl game still. What's most important about Season 2 is we're seeing both Army and Navy take steps forward. They've already won more games than they did the previous year. And if you're noticing a trend with us facing Air Force, it's the fact that they've been very hard for us to take down with either one of these teams, but we just got a massive play with a few minutes left. Running the football hasn't worked as well, but we were able to find space up the seam. And even though we have no timeouts remaining, we're going to trust this team to get some stops on defense and get us the football back. I don't think the Falcons are about to throw the football, but they're going to get a decent run on the ground. That should have honestly ended the game. Bad vision is a blessing though. We're ready to shoot in there and let them just take this one to the house. Unless we're able to catch them, it's not going to matter either way. We're going to lose this one to Air Force. And next season, we need to make sure that this does not happen again. For both of these military schools, although they had some stronger starts to the year, it just slowed down really quick. They're 3-8 and 4-7 going into the final matchup. And I will say, Navy is a little bit more to be proud of because they were able to beat Air Force, and they also just beat Memphis 16-13. While signing 4 4-stars, 3 of them being Jims once again. They did lose the linebacker to Duke, but that's an okay loss whenever you've signed all these other guys. Though there are a couple battles like this one to Northwestern that they are going to lose. Either both teams are going to finish 4-8 this year, or Navy's going to be able to have 2 more wins than Army. It'll all depend on the result of the Army-Navy game. Currently, in this video, Navy's up on Army 1-0. What we mentioned earlier is Navy's quarterback's trying to go his entire career without losing this game. But Antoine Irvin has been completely shut down in this one. They've only been able to put up 3 points, and that should have been picked. I feel like this game's already over, but if Army can get them off of the field on 4th and 10, that'll do it for good. The throw is out quickly, but it is deflected. And this is a very good bounce back win for Army, proving that they can finish 4-8 just like Navy did. If we look at the conference standings one final time though, these teams are still at the bottom of the American. So any hope of winning a national championship is still super far out there. UAB, the representation from our conference, got beat by Georgia 51-0. At least the Bulldogs went on to win the national championship. Antoine Irving, still not going to ever have an impressive season through the air, but he did run the ball more effectively, getting almost 500 yards while Marco had 760. And receiving wise, Navy actually had less yards than last year besides their tight end, Tyrell Bloom, getting almost double what they had. Just like Navy, Army started to feed their tight end a couple more times throughout the season. Nothing too drastic though. Grant Lacey, the senior running back, getting 705 yards. I wasn't expecting him to be the leading rusher. I thought freshman Anthony Alonso would be a lot more effective, but it turns out he got injured at one point throughout the year and he can't get any more elusive. As for Harvey Mills, we don't really care about what he did passing wise. We want to see those 406 rushing yards. And for both of these teams, it's time to say goodbye to a lot more seniors that were starting for them. I don't think these losses are going to affect them too much though, because I feel like the guys they picked up last year are going to just keep on developing. Tyler Spears, as an 84 overall corner, is gone for Navy. But there's a good amount of talent coming in that's going to replace all of those players anyway. I'm excited to see what the recruiting class rankings are for both programs, as I'm going to start expecting more out of these 3 stars in the American, and this might sound a little odd, but our best player in the future could end up being Robert, who is a 5'6" receiver. Mikael Murray has star development, and I think we're going to turn him into a gadget receiver so he can play running back for us as well. He's way more exciting than Marquez Luck, who had normal dev as a QB. But we know this class is not going to stack up to what Navy has because they were able to sign 4 4-stars, leading our conference tied with North Texas. It has been obvious that this has been their main focus, getting these guys that are 4-stars in that are interested in the program, especially when they all have star development like that. I mean, they could not have gone on a better run with the 4-stars this year. And they also signed 26 3-stars, which helps too. There's a clear issue they're going to run into though, and that's the fact that they have way too many linebackers, they have way too many corners, and way too many safeties. And I actually found the way that we're going to get the fastest fullback we can have at Army, and that's by moving one of these athletes over to that position that converts really well there. I think what matters so much more this season than anything else though truly is player progression. We're going to have a 92 speed back with Army. But more importantly than anything else, we're going to have a tight end that comes in as an 89 overall. He's going to be an incredible blocker. And between him and right guard Zach Breeze, it seems like this Army offense is going to be able to run the ball more effectively. Teddy Overshone is the higher overall quarterback as we're looking through this roster, but we might still roll with Harvey Mills. He is 5 speed faster. It's just hard to overlook a guy that is going to be a little bit more accurate and could still get better on the ground, just taking more time to do so. What really matters the most is abilities, and pure runner is going to have the best abilities for any quarterback that's operating in our offense, so we got to keep that in mind. Pure runners might be what we need to scout more in the future because Antoine Irving has just become the best quarterback in the conference. Between having Option King, between having Sidestep, which is going to be at a platinum level, he can't get Workhorse, unfortunately. He is an absolute monster. Now, I wish he could become faster. That is the one thing holding him back. His IQ also needs to increase. That'll affect how he plays, especially whenever we sim. Just something to keep in mind. And although we were upset that Navy lost one of their best corners to graduation, Jaquez Wooten in one off season has already become an 87 overall. He's capped out at 91 speed, but he is going to be the best player for the midshipmen, and I'm thinking both of these teams took some big strides forward. We've reached the point where the rosters are too big, so we need to make roster cuts. And I don't think this is very realistic for military schools, so we need to be very careful in the future that we don't go over that 85 size limit. If we're going to be cautious, that means this season for Army, we should only recruit about 7 players, which means we got to really focus in on which guys we want. And the same is true for Navy. We only have 6 seniors on this team, so I'd say the maximum amount of guys that we want to sign for both classes this year is about 10. It's actually going to make this a really fun recruiting class though, because even though we're still trying to keep that strategy at Army of going after mainly just athletes, there are a couple other 4-stars that aren't athletes on the board, and one of them includes a corner that Navy's also going after. Here's the thing though, they have the pipeline advantage, so they're probably going to beat us out. I just added these guys to our board, and then I noticed later that both schools had them on the board. Mo Prince is the much bigger name though, because he is a 4-star gem at quarterback with 87 speed as a freshman, 91 throw power, winning time as an ability. Whoever ends up signing him is going to have a major advantage. Is it a little weird that I'm just sitting here by myself on a Saturday recruiting against myself? Potentially, but all I'm doing is I'm just leaving Send the House on. We'll see who ends up winning battles. I'll schedule visits and sim those games for the players that they're competing against. And that's really it for the recruiting boards. Not too many guys on there, probably won't get most of them, just trying to fill team needs. We both have a higher overall team though. And so when Army's a 72 while Navy is a 74, they're expecting to win more games. It also seems like Navy is going to have an edge on Cortez Priestley because the second he hit his top 5, they've already unlocked all 3 of his hard sells because we know his main deal breaker is playing style. So this is easy for them to get the hard sell on. While Army on the other side doesn't have that type of knowledge, so I don't think I can take off Send the House and use the knowledge that I had from using Navy. We're also going to lose one of the athletes that we were targeting because our playing style just isn't good enough. And by the time we make it to week 6, well, these teams just aren't doing that well. Navy just lost to Air Force 33-0. And they're about to play at Memphis for a really big game because they've been able to get Mo Prince on a visit before Army could. They had a home game sooner on the schedule. They don't really know what to hard sell with yet, so we're stuck just sending the house. But a win here could really change who wins out on this quarterback, and that's a major deal. As for Army, we can see what his hard sell is, but there's no reason to change it over, so we're keeping on Send the House there. Cortez Priestley, we've just given up on. We got locked out due to playstyle one of these weeks. And for some of these other 4-stars, I've realized why we've been going after 3-stars with Army. We're just not going to have the grades to land them. I've noticed that even when we can figure out the hard sell, it's not good, which is why we might potentially get a 4-star bust, another player we can't hard sell on, and it's really a miracle that Keenan Creer has a good hard sell because he's one of the only 4-stars that does. All those important visits can't come for a little bit longer though. We've also discovered Steve Edmond, who looks really good as a quarterback if we don't get Mo Prince at Army. But we have to go back over to Navy because this is the game that I said we needed to hop into against Memphis. It's the one we're choosing. I thought we had gotten Navy better enough to where they'd win a couple more games in sim this year, but they've started off the year rough. And Antoine Irving has not been as good as we thought he would be. On a 4th and 2, we're just going to pick it up. But he sure is not helping pick up his replacement because as you can see, we're down by 9 points. He just throws it in the double coverage for no reason at all. It's a horrendous read, and that's going to end Navy's chances of winning this visit. I don't know what it's going to take to get these schools to start winning more games, but it's clearly not working what we're doing. Maybe we need to take a step back though. Memphis is a good program. FAU is an example of a team that both of these programs beat last year, so that should happen again. And honestly, if Keenan Creer is committing, I'd like to think that it did. Turns out 17-14 was enough to take that win, but I noticed something looking at that score, and that's the fact that an FCS school beat Army the week before. It's just not a great look. If they're going to continue the signing of their first 4 stars ever, though, they have to continue winning, and that's going to come against UAB this week in week 7. It is the perfect chance to run away with the 4-star quarterback, though they are the lower overall team. And we're going to bring out some different jerseys for this game, hoping that that can motivate these guys to get the edge over the Blazers. I'm going to be very real, though. Things are looking pretty grim for our chance of succeeding with the triple option. I'm not saying that we should, because you got to think at some point maybe it is being a little bit realistic, but we have gotten just shut out by UAB. This was not a good play. All we were able to do was muster a field goal, and that's not going to impress a 4-star. It seems like that's not going to matter, though, since Navy also lost their visit week. As for the other 4-star linebacker, well, that athlete is gone to Arkansas. And for either one of these teams, as we get to the Army-Navy game, I don't really want to talk about this year. You'll see some other signings for the Black Knights besides Mo Prince, because he still is not committed. It went down to a recruiting battle. Probably because he's debating between 2, 3, and 8 programs. Army did pick up a win against Rice 17-6. But Navy was able to take down that same team alongside Temple, playing Notre Dame every year. I told you all, that was going to be a brutal matchup. And just like Army, they've kept send the house on Mo Prince because they are unable to hard sell, which means he's most likely going to commit to Army in a couple of weeks. It is time to find out, though, who is going to win America's game to end the season and finish with a better record. Last season, it was a lot less competitive than we all expected it to be, and I think that's going to change just because Navy's not going to get beat twice like that. In fact, this year, they are the team that just showed out, winning 21-3. It wasn't any bit of a contest again. And the real difference maker came on the ground. It looked like Navy was able to establish the run a lot better than Army was, with Army's fullback getting the most carries for 41 yards. It's really unfortunate that neither team could have broken out this season because the rest of the American was down. Nobody is going to be making it to the playoff from the conference. And it's starting to dawn on me how much we still need to improve before we're up there competing for national championships. It's really nice that neither team's losing that many players this season. Army did lose a couple more, and a tight end that was an 88 overall, but he's not even going to be drafted. Though it just made me realize something big. Instead of just recruiting athletes, what we should probably start doing with some of these teams is recruit tight ends to move over to wide receiver so their blocking is better. Mo Prince did end up committing to the Black Knights, by the way. He only has impact development. I still think he's going to be a monster, but it's not very good for Navy's recruiting board, as the only 4-star they've signed this year is 4-star Cortez Priestley. There wasn't a concern from them to get any more players than that, though, which is why they've signed the worst class in the country, while Army was just inside the top 100. But that's because this past season was more about development than anything else. I'm about to start moving some of these running backs over the fullback as well. We're going to take our time with player progression, and we're going to figure out how to get some of these rosters to perform to their highest level, because players like Antoine Irving are entering their senior season. It's hard to believe that the 84 speed quarterback wasn't able to ever get any quicker, especially since he had elite development. But for Navy, this might be the best overall quarterback that they see the rest of this video, and some of his abilities also didn't get that high like Shifty. What's really going to change a lot for these programs is using gadget receivers to build some incredible running backs, because at the moment it's pretty cheap to get power up for DeMarco Rison. Same with elusiveness. We just got to get his speed up as well. He will eventually be converted over, and that's when he's going to become a real monster. I also think we're going to find out that even though they're playing for military schools, we're going to have players that leave our school early for the NFL. I know there's exceptions in real life. I'm just not 100% sure what the rules are. The same's going to be true for Zach Brees, who has turned into an absolute monster at guard for Army. And their quarterback, Teddy Overshone, only has a couple years left, but his speed needed to be upgraded before anything else. Now he can start to work on accuracy, while Robert McElmurray becomes a future running back for the Black Knights. As you can see, he has maxed out his elusiveness in just one offseason. He is 93 break tackle. At 5'6", he is going to just be a very interesting player to watch, where we've just had to find a way to get creative with some of these guys. And I've noticed there are certain archetypes at tight end that only upgrade a couple of their blocking stats, so those aren't going to be the best players to move back over to receiver, like a vertical threat, even though they're faster. Eventually, I'll finish up training results, but I was very curious about Mo Prince and what overall he was going to come in as. A 79 with uncapped accuracy. He can't get much faster, but that's okay. He's really exciting, while Steve Edmond, another quarterback that we signed to Army, only had normal development. His accuracy is already capped out, and so is his speed, so he's going to be a career backup for us. Neither of those guys can compete with Antoine Irvin being a 91 overall, though. This is what Navy's roster looks like by the time I am fully done with training results. They got an 85 overall strong safety, lots of juniors that are going to be draftable next season, and I think most importantly, they just have fun players. Their running back, Jason Goodwin, has 94 speed, 99 acceleration. He just isn't that good at juking or spinning. As an 82 overall team, I'm expecting them to basically just run through the American. We'll see how much the triple option holds us back. And then on the recruiting front, you're going to see lots of 4-stars on our board. Specifically, though, there are many gadget receivers that we're hoping to get later on, and also some quarterbacks. 3-star Brian Bragg is a gem. Navy would be lucky to have him. He'd be pretty good most years, but who we really want is Tremaine Basley. 87 speed, 87 throw power. We're competing with Penn State, who has a tier 5 pipeline. And Army is just fortunate that last year they were able to pick up these quarterbacks because they don't have to go through that same battle. Now, Teddy Overshone still has a couple seasons to start before either of those freshmen touch the field for us. This is what the Black Knights roster is looking like at the top. And they have a very similar situation at running back, where they have a kid with 94 speed that can't improve his elusiveness anymore, so we don't really know what else to upgrade. Most importantly, though, we're starting to actually develop fullbacks since it matters for this offense a lot. And honestly, that's something we could have been doing a lot better of a job of from the start. I've been able to get us some agile offensive linemen, but that's not all that you have to do whenever you're recruiting for a school like this. You see a lot of 4-stars this time around. We're not going after athletes, but there's a reason for that. We need good, strong, long-term running back solutions, and when we got some 4-stars, I think they're going to be better. It seems like Army's overall is a 79, so it's still less than Navy, but I think we're capable of beating FAU, which is why that game was simulated. But we didn't score until the 4th quarter, and this is where I think we're going to make a change on offense. Now, I do believe it's important that we stick with running the option, so we don't have many teams that we can choose from. But if we go to Liberty's playbook, they actually got their offensive coordinator from a military school, which means their option offense is going to come in as a spread option, which is a little bit more efficient. All we're doing is seeing if that can help us at all, because it was able to take down Navy this past week by 3 points. And you can just see how much it opened up the game for us against Tulsa. We were able to put up 421 total yards of offense, but Teddy Overshone is throwing for a lot more yards than I want to see, while we're also not getting any fullback carries because of the formations that are out there in that playbook. You know what? If we really need to transition to it years and years down the line, we can, but for now, we're going to go back to the military offense. Let's go over and try what Air Force has as their playbook. They seem to blast us in sim every season, and if we look at some of this recruiting, we're just getting locked out of these prospects because our playing style is not good enough for them, which is a very bad sign. In this upcoming game against UAB, they're 0-4. It might be on the road, but we're going to see if the playbook switch did anything. And using the Air Force triple option offense, we were able to beat the Blazers by a point. That's an upgrade compared to what happened last season. Looks like we threw it 15 times while still rushing plenty. I mean, this is almost 60 carries in the game. And another thing I could test out is some of these coach controls. I haven't really paid that much attention to them, but what if we were super aggressive on offense? Would this make us put up more points, maybe go for it on a lot of 4th and 1s? I really just felt like we needed to start testing more things because it seemed like we were going to finish with 3 or 4 wins a season. We're making it to the top 5 of a lot of these prospects that we picked out and nobody else really wanted. And if I were to get some of them in on a visit, I think North Texas is a great opportunity for us to pick up a huge win. As for Navy, it's kind of hit us that we're not going to be able to win out on Basley unless we have an extremely good visit week, since our hard sell won't be effective, and that means we got to pick wisely going up against East Carolina. The problem is, though, or maybe it's not a problem, it's a good thing, is we beat Tulane, so I'm not sure if this is a big game against East Carolina now, or if we're going to be favored and we won't be rewarded as well. I haven't even touched Navy's playbook in this yet, the way I've been moving around with Armies, and they're currently sitting at 3-1, just like the Black Knights are, except they are undefeated in conference play. And I cannot stress enough how much it would do for us if we could just take down the Pirates and stay on top of the American. Either I doubted the triple option way too early into a rebuild, or we're about to get smoked on this field. And it might have just been doubting things way too early. As you can see, we're only down by 3, and we're trying to stop East Carolina from scoring, which feels like something we can pull off. It's 2nd and 12. They got us the bite down low, but it's about to be 3rd and 7. And I'm really just hoping that we don't let them into the end zone here. We've got a hitch wide open. He's going to throw it. Can we make the tackle in time? We do. But the Pirates are not satisfied. They go for it on 4th and 2. And they get in. I thought they were going to kick their field goal and we'd have our opportunity to just march down the field with a couple of minutes left. This is going to be our biggest passing play of the season. But it's hard to say any of this matters because we're going to have to get an onside kick, even if we're able to get into the end zone. And Rocket Toss is looking extremely overpowered to Goodwin. Now, you might be wondering, with only 1 timeout, why did he not run out of bounds right there? And it's a very valid question to ask. This would be such an incredible throw. But when are we ever going to get another quarterback with elite development? Antoine Irving's career has been wasted at Navy. Unless we scoop this up? No! No, it was for the taking there, and East Carolina still had it. There were so many reasons we needed to win that game. Now we have Army going on the road to Missouri. What type of matchup is this for the non-conference? It's safe to say we were set up to lose, and then East Carolina is just a really good team in our conference. They beat us by 3 points, but we're about to host North Texas. And if you remember what this means for Army, it's their only chance at signing a couple of these 4-star athletes that are coming on a visit. It would also keep them on track to potentially become bowl eligible, because it seems like Navy might be. And that's the type of progression we're looking for since we're building for a national championship. With 6 minutes left in this game, we're trying to pick up a really big 3rd and 5, which we get with DeBeer moving us down the field. And the strategy must be clear. We are going to chew clock because we want this one to be over. We're up by 3 points. We've already given our fullback 25 carries in this game. That could have been such a good run. I was just a little bit confused on what was happening. Overshown getting immediately pressured as he runs around in the pocket. If he made this throw on the run, it'd be incredible, but we're not winning that jump ball. We've had to punt it back to North Texas, and on a 3rd and long, they just had way too much time back there. They make the throw on the run, but we also got to it. Well, it seems like they are deciding to punt with a few minutes left because they think our offense is going to get stopped and they'll get another opportunity. I don't think that's going to be the case, though, at all. I have faith that we can at least pick up a 1st down or 2 before getting stopped, especially if we pitch this. But it felt like the ball was just glued to his hand. Now we have a fullback toss going nowhere. And passing really is the worst in these situations, especially if we aren't going to hit our throws, but we did. It really looked like that wasn't going to be on target, but it was. We get to the outside. DeBeer gets a good block, and he stays in bounds. So we did everything we needed to take a knee, end this game, and get a huge win over the Mean Green, which was still nowhere near enough to convince Terrell that he should come to our school, but I can't blame him. The hard sell we pitched him on was conference prestige, and that's only a B grade. I can't even put into words how frustrating it is to just watch these bigger schools come in at the last second and take away all the big prospects we were excited about. The 2 gadget receivers I was most pumped on, well, Tennessee and even Purdue want them more, and I didn't even get to start telling you all about my plan to use those gadget receivers as quarterbacks potentially. Now, by the time that we have reached the Army-Navy game, Antoine Irving set the Navy single-season passing touchdowns record. I guess he's been throwing the football a little bit more, and it's a great thing because even though there's losses to teams like Notre Dame, Temple, Memphis, that doesn't matter when you are 6 and 5. That's enough to be bowl eligible. It's not enough to win out on these 4-star edges, though, which we saw coming from a mile away. But receiver Steven Cruz still going to come to our school. We were able to get a couple other 4-stars, including a running back. Of course, Basley eventually chose Penn State, but we're going to get Brian Bragg, a quarterback option. And you know what? The 89 speed, 86 throw power Von Redding is still interested in our school. Tennessee's not pulling away by that much, though Purdue took the 3-star gadget. I knew we couldn't sign too large of a class with either one of these programs, so we might be going a little bit overboard with Army. There's players with deal breakers, though, that might not want to come to our school anyway. A lot of these 3-stars have just been interested in the jump, and we've not recruited them. But the players to talk about: Luis Pope, a receiver potentially. We got Nate as a linebacker. He's taking forever to commit. And then running backs Jonathan Kerr and Bobby Chestnut are really nice additions. We've gotten ourselves a decent amount of receivers over the years. Maybe they need to start playing tight end. Maybe they need to start playing both sides of the ball. I don't know. They're not that useful as a receiver at Army. And I can't tell if our offensive scheme and plan with the Black Knights or with Navy is better because both teams finished 6 and 5. There's at least some clear improvement. The Army-Navy game doesn't count as a conference game, by the way, so this is where the conference standings are going to finish out. We don't make it to the American Championship, but I think Army was in the running all up until their last 2 losses, so that's disappointing to see. What's great about this matchup, though, is for the first time, we're getting to play in some snow. I think when I attend it, it might snow in person this next week, which I'm not sure how to feel about. I've never filmed while it's snowing. My poor cameraman, John, would be sitting there freezing behind the camera, but those shots would be majestical. You gotta pitch that ball. If Army's gonna win this game, Teddy Overshown needs to do something correctly. And when you can't even make a 5-yard little pitch to your running back, it's just not gonna work out well. On 3rd and 15, he's gonna drop back. He's going to get it out to the sideline, but they're going to be short. And this is where we like to see the aggressiveness. This is how football is meant to be played. This is America's game. 4th and 3. The 4th down is going to, I don't know, still go on, I guess. That was an amazing play from him. I was just at a loss of words. It was too overstimulating for my brain to even process what to say. This is awesome. This is football. All the Army needs is a field goal. Not sure how good their kicker is, but I think he's a junior. He should be decent. And since running hasn't worked out as well for the Black Knights, they keep on resorting to going through the air. Tight end gets open, but he's short again. The kicker is not being sent out in this situation. It's a huge 4th and 4. 80 seconds left on the clock. The junior quarterback gets out a slant that is dropped. And I guess Navy is just going to completely neglect being in a triple option formation here. Antoine's currently back there taking some snaps out of shotgun. Triple option coming. He should have pitched it. That gives Army a chance because as long as they get this stop on 3rd and 10, they're getting it back. They aren't going to have that much time, but all that they need to do is get in a field goal range. That was an incredible punt pinning them back. And this is for a team to finish with 7 wins this season, more than their rival, Overshone, going down. Tim Dorr with the sack. It's his 3rd of the day. Navy looks like they're about to run away with it unless this can be like a 50-yard play for Army. I just don't see it happening. It's thrown out of bounds. And just such an unfortunate way for this one to end for them. I thought they were going to get a field goal. This one's deflected, but that's all that happened. You never know when that ball is just going to fall into somebody else's hands. They're going to run under it for a touchdown. Navy gets a very big win. But I think on the recruiting front, Army's been able to beat them out this year. Alongside making the Myrtle Beach Bowl, there's also an accolade that we have seen. And that is Army's punter, George Hossman, winning the Ray Guy Award for the best punter in the country. Statistically, he was averaging almost 46 yards per punt this year. He had a few for touchbacks, but 16 inside the 20. And I guess Army was punting the football a lot this season. Teddy Overshone threw it about 150 times, completed 61% of them, only had 1 interception. But I'll tell you what, 2.8 yards per carry is just not going to cut it. We want to see him get some higher totals in the future. Kelvin DeBeer and Juan Donahue, though, both of them had some big seasons. This just reiterates how badly we need an athlete at the fullback position. He only has 74 speed. I mean, what is he supposed to do? We even saw the most receiving yards we've ever gotten out of a guy so far, so that's impressive. He's only a sophomore. And I think what really needs to be talked about is Army's about to sign 7 4-stars this year. We can see dev traits of some of them on early National Signing Day. The running backs are going to be impact. It looks like everyone's impact besides Matthew Sanders. And before we cover everything that happened in Navy this season, we have a bowl game with the Black Knights against Louisiana, who averaged 13 more points per game. But we're going for that first bowl win in this rebuild. I can see things starting to shift for this team. And with 2 minutes left in this game, you see where we're sitting at. Only down by 3 points. We drive down the field and score a touchdown. We win. It is so hard to make some of these reads as quickly as we have to, though, on these plays. And that's what makes this offense so tough. We're going to pull it on the triple option. We're going to pitch it on 3rd down, and we're somehow going to get enough. But to score a touchdown, we still have a long way to go down the field. And with a rollout here, we're going to get our halfback angle route, but it's just not a good throw. You know, it might actually be worth it for us to max out our quarterback's accuracies in the future so they can do stuff like this when needed. It didn't really fit the offense we're going to be running for 90% of the game, but that doesn't matter. When we need to clutch up, that is what we lean on. Another carry for our 74 speed fullback. The most important position on this offense that, yes, we will be improving in the future for sure. Probably just moving the halfback over there. On 3rd down, what we're going to do is basically just center this up for a field goal or pitch it because we want to get that touchdown. And this is perfect for Alonzo. This is setting up exactly the way it needs to for him. He's got 94 speed. He gets to the outside. Army is in. And Louisiana couldn't do anything with like the last 10 seconds, so we are going to win a bowl game, the Myrtle Beach Bowl. As for Navy, well, they also had national award winner Hayden Kern won the Lou Groza Award. He only missed 1 field goal, but they have a much more difficult bowl matchup against Cincinnati. They also let Notre Dame take that edge while Auburn was able to get the other edge. So Notre Dame took edges from both Army and Navy this year, only signing 3 4-stars, but still in the running for Von Redding. And you have to think, if I was saying only a few 4-stars for Army or Navy a few years ago, you would have called me crazy. When it comes to Antoine Irving's final year with the midshipmen, he had his most passing yards, the most passing touchdowns he's ever had. He took the least amount of sacks, so he did really well there, but rushing wise, he never got more than a few yards per carry. And that means he was the 3rd leading rusher on this offense behind fullback Marcus Colin and also Pat Corral, who are both seniors, so the top 3 leading rushers from this team are all graduating. Jason Goodwin, the guy I talked up and who was supposed to play more, is also leaving. His 94 speed was barely used this season. So I don't know who's going to be on offense for this team next year, but maybe we move over one of these receivers to running back just to get some athleticism there. I have a feeling this bowl game might not be the best for us, but we have to give it our best shot, see if we can win a bowl game with Navy as well. And it's not going to be played on a teal field or in the middle of the day. No, this one is going to be at night. Well, if there was a most interesting result of this video so far, it's got to be this one, because with a few minutes left, we have an opportunity to take down a Power 4 team, which just gives me a lot of hope for the future. We still have to reach field goal range though, which has been an issue in the past. We're going to pull it and pitch it, get it out to Goodwin, let him use that speed to pick up like 8, and see what we can do with a dive up the middle or to the outside, cutting it back. We're still on our feet. It's why we need offensive linemen that can move around a little bit. And I was even confused by this play. We ran back super far. It's out of reach. This is how we're selling. This is how we're selling to Cincinnati. Can we at least catch this kid? Give us some hope. Don't let him get in. It was just so unnecessary. Antoine Irving is going to end his career with a loss unless he can lead us down the field for a 2-point conversion. And even though we have barely thrown the football with him in this game, he has 2 interceptions. That just lets you know how he has been through the air. He's probably about to throw another interception right here. It's dropped. I love how much we just abandon the option whenever we need a huge play. Looks like Watkins had a step at first, but for whatever reason, he just decided to slow himself down, and we're trying to thread it up the seam. It's caught by Goodwill. Now, something we're keeping in mind is we still have all 3 of our timeouts, so even if we don't get that 2-point conversion, we could get a defensive stop to get the football back, as long as we get into the end zone pretty fast, which is why Irving needs to run up behind the center, get inside him, snap that ball, and get us a few more. Marcus Colon has over 118 yards on the ground. If we could get him to 122, we'd be in a really nice spot. But we can't even finish off this drive now. There's 40 seconds left on the clock, and they're stuffing the run. I think the only right decision is letting Irving get this ball into his hands. This is his final game, and he doesn't get enough. Running just the option is tough, but we get the safety. Hang on, don't count us out of this game yet. There's only 15 seconds left, but we saved all our timeouts. And we could still reach the end zone. It's a long shot, especially with a long play, which is why we decided to just get that ball out as quick as we possibly could and then send up a prayer. I don't even know if Antoine Irving is capable of reaching the end zone here, but all we can do is just send this one up and they hit us. We tried to wait long enough, but Cincinnati is going to win the ball game. And I just noticed North Texas was the playoff team this year. If we find a way to win our conference, we're going to be in there. Players leaving is about to really hurt though, because guys like Antoine Irving are gone for good. I don't see anybody declaring early for the NFL draft. I think this is a good sign that with how the military rules are set up, someone like Jaquez Wooten, who is already a 91 overall, can't leave early. He has to finish out serving, so he'll be with the team for 1 more year. I mean, for both of these programs, Army as well, if the player's good enough, they will eventually have a way to get drafted, but they're not going to be able to leave our team early, which means we're going to keep them around. I think after their junior year, they have to sign something that keeps them at the school. And the more players we put onto the NFL, the more players that are going to be willing to come here and trust us to develop them well. But one thing that has surprised me is Antoine Irving only going in the 6th round. I thought he would be a little bit higher. Now, I am really glad that we never gave up on Von Redding, because Navy is eventually going to get the 4-star gadget receiver during this offseason period. But not every player was easy to close out on, especially for Army, as we were losing a guard to Indiana, and we should have lost a couple more of these players. On Navy's side of things, they only had 14 signings, but they had a few star dev players, including Brian Bragg, the quarterback, plus one of these gadget receivers, only 85 speed, but we can work on that. One of those guys might be a quarterback in the future as well. The recruiting class rankings were number 26 for Army and 61 for Navy, so Army's had the highest ranked class of this entire video. And I'll tell you one thing, I'm about to turn on some music, lock in for the next hour, figure out the best position changes and all of the training results we can do to make these teams as good as possible for next year. I mean, if there's anything I made clear, it's the development of gadget receivers and moving them over to running backs for us. I'm also figuring out what tight end positions we can move over to fullback in the future, so we have better overalls there. But as you can see, from a 71 overall to an 86 running back, that's what we're able to get on DeMarco Rison, and then we've spent some of his skill points where he didn't really increase in overall, but he became an even better player. And I'm noticing most of the upgrades for utility fullbacks are just horrendous, or they're really expensive, so you need to do all your upgrades for a fullback before they're moved over. I guess there's always the option to actually scout them and recruit them better as well too. We haven't really done that yet. Now for Cornell Boggs, we can improve his accuracy a couple more times, or we could make him faster, and we're going to take the senior quarterback up to 92 speed. I felt like that was what Navy really needed on offense. On defense, Jaquez Wooten is our highest overall defensive player we've had so far. He has 97 man coverage, had some skill caps on the zone coverage and quickness, but with a little extra skill caps, we can actually get blanket coverage up to gold. And there's just nobody that's going to be that good for Army's defense on that same level, but they are going to have a 93 overall linebacker with 83 speed over the middle. At quarterback this year, the Black Knights do have the better guy. Teddy Overshone got his accuracy maxed out. He also got his quickness maxed out as a 90 speed. His abilities as a dual threat quarterback aren't as great. Option King would have been useful, but I would definitely say if you can get a pure runner, these are all the abilities they have that are much more effective for running the option. And David Hewitt was actually a receiver, a gadget that we moved over to quarterback just as a test. And what you'll see is his throw power is an 85 or an 88, trucking 85. He can also get that accuracy up a decent bit. while being fast, so we might want to move gadget receivers to quarterback to run our offense. I've really just been trying to figure out how we're going to focus on stuff like that in the future. 96 speed out of Anthony Alonso as a senior. The running back is going to feast, and next year when we move over Robert to that position, he's going to be even better, especially if we put him on some Texas routes. After seeing Navy's final roster, though, I don't think anything Army does is going to compete with this. I mean, their defensive back room is so talented, especially for a military school. The real downside is since they don't want to start true freshman quarterback Brian Bragg, they're going to put the senior out there with experience, Cornell Boggs, because he's a lot faster. And for both of these teams, recruiting's very interesting this year. There aren't any 3-stars that are getting hours into them off the start. It's only 4-stars. Army's kind of gone away from the strategy of just getting athletes. They'll still put some on their board if they find them, but what they're realizing is you need to have 4-stars with higher potential if they're going to develop in just 4 years. Without the ability to redshirt these players, it's very hard to get their overalls high. I mean, most of these guys without tactician bonuses are sitting at about an 86 and 87. And although it might seem like these teams are very similar, Army's just an 84 overall, while Navy is sitting as a 91 overall headed into the year. Both of these teams open up the season against an FCS school where I'm expecting them to win. And if there's ever going to be a chance for Navy to sign the 4-star gyms that are at the top of their board, what they're going to have to do is get them in on a visit in week 5 against USF and hope that those bonuses do a lot of the work. I thought headed into the game, Navy was going to be 1-1 since they just beat an FCS school by 7 points, but they went on the road at North Texas, who was undefeated, ranked number 23 in the country, and beat them by 4. So there's a lot of momentum for the midshipmen as they're about to host USF in a game that everyone's expecting them to win. I've not gotten to that point yet where I can just trust them to blindly take care of business, which is exactly why this is the game that we're playing, and it's going to be a fumble for a lot of yards. How are we ending the first half this way? We were on the 14. Every so often, there are just some really bad moments that we wish we could get back, and it's a fumble. It's not. It is not ending this way. We're going to be in a 17-14 game because we just collapse. I'll sit here and just throw the challenge flag because we might as well and hope that Boggs was down, but he wasn't. And so we legitimately sweated out this entire game. But as time went on, we did prove that we were the better program, getting another touchdown in the rain. We've been able to put up 38 points. It's the best our offense has ever been. And I actually think we have figured something out with getting some faster fullbacks. Although Cornell Boggs isn't getting many rushing yards, whenever you got a fullback that can get 4.5 yards per carry and Shakir Bradbury is getting 6.3, you're going to dominate. Navy genuinely looks better than ever, and as they get one 4-star signing, that's going to be the only one. We have been forced into a recruiting battle against Michigan, who has a tier 4 pipeline and a visit next week, so we can basically write our names off of him. It looks like we'll eventually close out on some of the other 4-star gyms though. And for Army, I'm not able to hard sell on a single one of these 4-star prospects because our school grades are simply not good enough for any of them. But interestingly enough, we're still in the lead for basically all of them. Jimmy Hillis is a 4-star bust at quarterback. I still want him despite his 79 speed just because he's a 4-star. And it's not like the Black Knights are struggling. Currently, they're undefeated and we're about to go up against Rice. That was a team that both programs won against last year, so I figured it was going to happen again, but the Owls shock us in our home stadium with some prospects on a visit. And while Army takes a step back, Navy just continues to succeed, signing a load of 4-stars. We'll get to them eventually, but that's not even the most important part because after beating Air Force and Charlotte, look at the top 25. For the first time in this video, one of the two teams has made it there. Navy sitting at 5-0, just above 5-2 Washington. And they are also on top of the American Conference, but there are plenty of other teams that are still undefeated in conference play, and we can't hop into any more games this season since we already played one. That's another thing that's going to make it really challenging to win a championship with either one of these teams. We have a lot of sim games. And eventually the run was bound to end. FAU gets their spot in the top 25, going to 7-0, with Notre Dame coming up on the schedule for Navy after this one. I think that moment is going to shift a lot on who can have the better season between the two teams. It's not going to be recruiting for Army that gets them over any edge though. As you can see, some of these other schools are starting to pick up on the fact that none of these 4-stars were being recruited, so they're going after them, giving us some comp. And currently there's a receiver and a quarterback on a visit for this Air Force game, which we should win. I've said all along though how much I didn't really care if we got the 4-star bus, and I'm just gonna have to keep telling myself that because Kansas State has completely taken over this battle. We're in first place right now, but since we can't hard sell on them, there's not much we're gonna be able to do in the end. And I gotta say, this has been quite the run. Army sitting at 7-1, coming up on the road at North Texas. This is a game that Navy was able to win. And I believe that Army could as well. If they don't, they're not going to have any chance at being in the running for the conference championship. But if they do win it, it shakes up everything. That is why this is the matchup that we are clearly going to hop into against the Mean Green. And it's going to be tough going into Denton, Texas. It's about 45 minutes north of Dallas. I've been in that stadium. They've done a really good job in building up their team there. We're just looking to take them down as Overshown is in. It's nice to be able to trust a senior quarterback. But more importantly, a defense that has really carried us throughout this entire game. North Texas sending up a prayer at the very end, but it's underthrown. We get back to the football, and this is how Army is going to take down the Mean Green. You have to wave goodbye to them a little bit. You got to taunt them. We just won 24-9. It's a massive win, especially since Navy has at least a few losses by this point. They've lost 3 straight, and they already have the advantage of signing basically anybody that they want in recruiting, so it's good that Army's going to balance things out. We did find Morgan Johnson, though, doing a little scouting for Navy with the archetype north-south blocker. He's got 83 speed. He's a 3-star gym. This might be the perfect build for a fullback. And we'll see if the midshipmen can bounce back against 5-4 Temple. They've really just went through a tough 3-week stretch with 2 3-point losses. Tulane and FAU on the road are not easy wins in the American. And they literally get to face back-to-back 2-8 opponents before the big game against Army. There has also never been this much success in the American Conference. UTSA, FAU, Rice, Tulane, all doing very well, so it looks like the Black Knights are on the outside of the conference championship. But at some point, those teams will have to play each other, or they're going to run into a team like Army where UTSA would be a major win. It actually happened though, 33-21 with Army going out, not throwing for too many yards because, again, we are keeping it as the triple option offense, but rushing for almost 300. Though I do have some bad news still. Michigan's going to catch us on Brian Truman. It's been like that all year. Kansas State took the lead on Jimmy Hillis in the recruiting battle. They'll eventually win. We just can't hard sell. Demarius Brown, though, I think we have. I just know that for future teams, Brian Church might be the quarterback. This is the real game that matters the most, though. East Carolina 4-7, Army at 9-1. Can they take care of business? And it turns out the answer to that question is yes, because this is the pop-up we're getting. Now, if we look back on the Black Knights schedule, they had an easier path throughout the American. They didn't have to play FAU during the regular season, but we're about to have to face them after the Army-Navy game. And in real life, the conference championship would actually come before this, but since it's not, I have a feeling it can affect our ranking, where Army's currently sitting inside the top 25. Navy was able to get themselves back to 8-3 this season, with Isaac Owen setting the season sacks record. So they have a real opportunity to be a pain for Army and derail everything they've been building towards, making the stakes for this game higher than they have ever been before. We'll see if Army can get it done. I think so far in this video, Navy has a 3-1 lead over Army. But you see the position the Black Knights are in as we approach the final minute. They pitch it to the outside, and they have a leading touchdown. Now, this is not going to secure the win for them at all. They still have to play defense. And let's say Navy's able to get into field goal range. They could send it to overtime. That would give us the first overtime game of this video between these two teams. I would love it. And you have to be very careful about quarterback Cornell Boggs. The senior is not the best through the air, but he's got that 92 speed. We're going to see if he takes off here or if he just lets it fly. Check down, we'll move the chains. And Navy is down to just one more timeout. This is a battle between two senior quarterbacks, so next year, I don't know what either one of these programs will look like. It's actually been a ton of fun building both of them up, seeing what we can do with them. 30 seconds left, corner route is open, and that's not just going to be a field goal, it's a touchdown. Army's gonna lose. Navy has actually done it. They've ruined their season. I mean, it's just inexcusable for the Black Knights to not have any safety help there, knowing you needed the stop, knowing that you couldn't give up a huge play deep like that, and they still have all 3 of their timeouts, but these short gains aren't helping them very much. I think they'll be able to get into Hail Mary range. I don't know if they got the arm for it, though. Looks like Overshown is about to throw a pick. And Teddy better realize it's 4th and 1. You have to make sure you at least pick this up if you even want a chance at a Hail Mary. He chucks it at the last second. It's like he faked him out, but it won't work. I have to say, that was an instant classic. It's the best game that we've gotten between these two teams. Navy just ruined any hope Army had of the playoff. And while they did it, they were able to pick up another 4-star. I think what's interesting, though, is the loss has not affected Army's ranking because it shouldn't, and they would still be the 5th highest rated conference champion, assuming that carries over to the next week. They just have to take down FAU, but I say just like this is an easy task. It certainly is not. What I really like, though, is we get to host this game. There's no snow on the field, but there's a lot of hope in the stadium for a team that has not finished off anything in this game so far. We have no choice but to settle for a field goal to end this first half, down by 7. But the best part about this team is the defense, which has kept us in this game all the way until the 4th quarter. By now, our fullback has 20 carries for 120 yards. We hit him with a jet sweep, but it just didn't work out, so we could get held to another field goal in this game unless we don't even get a field goal. It's an interception. and we don't make the tackle. FAU is trying to return it all the way back, but we got 2 DK Metcalfs on this team. And I'm just hoping that they hand this off because we can get pressure. I can't believe how quickly everything just turned in this game. But here we go. Big third down. And they have him. I have to say, we just have not played the best offensively. Overshown, gonna roll out and just scramble for the first down. But whenever we have to resort to throwing the football a lot more than we want to, it's probably not a very good sign of how this game has gone. Though, blocking's looking good, and we might want to run this play back. See, what's so beautiful about the rocket toss is we have 2 running backs out there, so we can go the either direction. This is our faster one. Anthony Alonso's a little tired, though. Wear and tear picks up whenever you're running the triple option all season. So that's why we've been getting DeBeer on this, and as long as they're bringing guys in, trying to stop the shorter run, it was working. Now that we're on a 4th and 4, though, with the game on the line, I'm not feeling is great. And I genuinely cannot believe how poorly we've played against FAU. The clock is just melting away on us as well. Only a few minutes left. So at some point, we have to get into the end zone, and that gets us a step closer. This is the biggest game that we've had, and we've just made a huge mistake with the way that we've played. I'm really hoping that them bringing everybody in is a good sign for us on the 2-point conversion, though, as we run the same play. The question becomes, can we stop this FAU offense? And I'd like to think so. They go with another run. We aren't on the outside, though. And that's going to be bad unless we can knock him out of bounds. One more first down. The Owls are taking this conference championship. So it's time. We're going to see if their quarterback can deal with pressure. If this is a jet touch pass, we're in a lot of trouble. They've carved us up the middle. Nothing we can do. It was such a great play call. It was the perfect counter for the look that we were giving them, and they've done that all game. I guess what we don't know, though, is how comfortable they feel with kicking a field goal from this range. If we can even get them off the field in the first place. I predicted the run, but it's not going to matter. There's a fumble. And they still scooped it up. Are you kidding? What a horrible ending to this season. Army loses back-to-back games. And this just feels like such a wasted season now, with so many great seniors that are going to graduate and leave this team in a lot of trouble. Are you serious? We play Texas A&M? I guess this game will be a good test of what would happen if we had to play some bigger programs in the playoff, assuming we ever get there. And I'm really hoping this one goes well, because I don't know if I see our offense getting much better than what we have. Well, I don't really know how to break this news, but it's our defense. Our defense was very, very elite this season. I know Texas A&M's not the highest overall team, but we might just shut them out of this game completely. We're going to have to settle for a field goal here. But it doesn't matter. We've been settling for field goals all game, and it's given us 18 points. We let them score in the final seconds just so they could feel a little bit better about themselves, but this is a huge win. Because even if Army did collapse to end the year, we have just proven that we might be able to win it all using the triple option. I was still not sold on it. Teddy Overshown, throughout his career for us, he started for 3 seasons. He never threw very many interceptions. To be fair, he really shouldn't with how our offense is run, but we had a fullback over 1,000 rushing yards, and Tavares College is going to return for next season as well. It's very exciting seeing the type of player that he has become. His blocking can continue to increase. That'll probably bring up his overall. His power probably needs to go up a little bit more as well. And Kelvin DeBeer is also returning 940 rushing yards out of Teddy Overshown. We have yet to see that out of a quarterback. But I am noticing a trend out of this playbook. It's our backup running back that gets a bulk majority of the carries. Anthony Alonso should have been halfback too. If I put him there, he would have gotten more carries. I don't really understand that, but since we were running the ball so effectively, there was no need to throw. And just to show how dominant we were, we did play 2 more games than Navy, but we had almost 1,500 more rushing yards this year, averaging almost 300 rushing yards per game. Just a wild difference between the 2 schools, where the midshipmen are getting Oklahoma in their bowl. It is a chance for a top 25 win, so there's that. Just 91 passing yards per game, though. I thought if they weren't running the ball as effectively as Army was, maybe they were passing for a bit more. That has just not been the case, though. It is the difference between having an 88 overall quarterback and a 77. It would have been really interesting to see what this team could have been without him, because as you can see, they are trailing by 11 points with only 2 minutes left. I mean, this could be a really big play, but it's just not. 4th and 15. Need to convert here, and there's just no way Ryzen makes it. So Navy is not going to be able to win for the military schools against Oklahoma. They didn't go 2-0 in the bowl games, but that's okay. This season has given me hope for the future of what we can achieve. Navy should be extremely talented next season as well, because they have a 94 overall strong safety, a 91 overall corner, and a 90 overall corner, all juniors that will return. At least I thought they all were, but apparently there is a loophole for a junior that's projected to be a 2nd round pick to just get out early. So we're going to have to say goodbye to Joseph. There's no persuading it. That's actually a really really big loss, and this entire classes. It's the first one that I signed whenever we got to Navy. But I don't think anyone's really going to be missing Cornell Boggs. He wasn't anything great, only 352 rushing yards. We got a lot of our rushing yards out of Shakir Bradbury, who will return for his senior year. And so will the fullback, while Joey Rosas, also coming back for another year, and Tyron Goodwill. A lot of returning starters on the offensive skill position part. Meanwhile, a lot of the players that Army is losing are unfortunately not going to get drafted. They are just underneath that threshold, which really hurts future pro potential grades. And I thought maybe one or two of those guys could sneak into the NFL, but it didn't happen. Not to boost Navy's ego or anything, but they did put 2 defensive backs in as round 2 picks, plus a center in the 7th round. And for both of these teams, this needed to be a really big class because they're trying to replace about 35 players. Looks like Army has 5 4-stars on lock, with the potential to sign a couple more of them if these schools just decide in the offseason that they don't really want those guys. On Navy's side of things, they've already been able to bring in 11 4-stars with the potential to get 14 of them. They just have to close out these 3 final battles. And doing the same thing as Army, they're filling out their board with 35 players just to sign as many guys as possible. But it didn't take long for it to be clear that of those 3 4-stars, only one of them is probably going to sign with Navy. Now on National Signing Day, I thought for the first time ever, we would have 2 full classes of 35 players, but Duke had to ruin that. They just sneak in and they ruin everything. They just ruined the ACC's playoff chances. Now they did that. But I'm more excited to look through the dev traits of some of the players in Navy's class, which is why we're checking it out first. Elite dev on DeMarco Cherry. I think he could be a fullback in the future. Elite dev on Steven as well. Those guys are going to be very good, and so is Tyler Nestor, a receiver with elite development. I don't think Navy could have done any better than they did. They actually signed the number 12 class in the country. Keep that in mind. The number 12 class in the country at Navy. Army was still inside the top 25, but they didn't have near as many 4-stars. And I highly doubt that they're going to have 3 of their players walking around with elite development. 7 4-stars to look through. We got star dev, normal, impact, normal, star, elite. There's at least 1 elite dev player. It's an offensive lineman, and star. At least the good news for Army is they've got Mo Prince, who's been developing for 2 years, ready to come in. He hasn't even progressed through training results, and he's already an 84. But I was really curious about these north-south blockers. They're coming in as about 70 overalls. If we were to move them over to fullback, they would drop 11. So I don't know if that's a great long-term solution, or finding tight ends that are physical route runners, developing them to be good fullbacks, and then move them over since they only drop a few overalls. Now, I did get very concerned for Army's offensive line as I was just scrolling through here, but eventually we made it to the right guards and right tackles. They're going to be just fine with all their depth. And this might seem like a weird idea. We're going to move our best receiver over to tight end, who won't be a good blocker, but he can't get any faster, so we don't want 86 speed as our main receiving target. There's been a couple players that we've just been hyping up though, ready to move over to running back, and Duke Ballage is one of them. Though I guess it just hit me that fullbacks could also come from being gadgets. We could also get some more tight ends out of this, just to fill whatever our roster needs are. Another player I always planned on converting over to running back was Robert McElmurray, and this could make him an 88 overall. But I have to wonder, with Duke Ballage already over there, do we need another star running back? And we might. I really don't mind us doubling up over there. There are a lot of athletes to still move around for defense too, so that's good news on that side of the ball. And for Navy, we have some similar moves coming that could very much benefit our rushing attack. It's just weird taking a player like Joey Rosas, who had a lot of receiving yards, and putting him over there. He at least had a lot for Navy's standard, but he should get more yards rushing this year than anything he could do receiving wise. Brian Bragg, their quarterback, is going to have 90 speed, but instead of making him any faster, we increased his accuracy a little bit so we could throw it too. Then you have the 5'7" running back, who's not very strong, that we just made faster, up to 94 speed, 99 acceleration. We're going to spend his last 2 upgrades though, making sure his spin, break tackle, juke move is a lot higher. And this is really annoying to Shakir Bradbury, who got so many carries last year, putting up some great numbers. His overall's actually going to be higher though, because the only thing we could upgrade was his awareness, and he's up to 94, bringing him to an 88. I think overall in this game's just dumb, but there are so many upgrades that need to be done training results wise for both of these teams. And the most important ones on Army's side of things are going to be a very big deal, especially if we're seeing some dev trade upgrades. Due to how he played on the field, Kevin DeBeer had his opportunity to improve, but look at this. His skill caps are horrible. So the 2 receivers that we moved over are going to be the focal points of this offense. 99s on so many stats for Robert. That is why we wanted him as a running back. But his main downside is he is still 5'6", 200 pounds. The future's looking all right as well with these 2 sophomores, impact development. And don't even get me started on how good of a quarterback Mo Prince could be, especially if he has a big year. His accuracy is already more than fine. 89 speed. We should get that elusiveness up a little bit so he is better at running the football. And I figured if we were going to get a 95 overall defender on this team, it was going to have to come at our linebacker position. Now, I believe this Army team is about as good as the one that we put on the field last season, so we'll see if they can live up to that expectation. And from a coaching standpoint, I'm not sure I've really talked about what I've been doing with these coaches the last couple years, but we've basically maxed out everything for tactician besides boosting our receiver stats. I feel like that's kind of useless. I did dabble a little bit in recruiting just so it is faster for us to scout some of the key positions we've been going after. Gadget receivers have been a big part of both recruiting teams. And then strategist is what I eventually plan on getting to. We don't have to spend much more on recruiter, but what we need to do is win 2 more bowl games first. Then we can start going down to like tier 1, tier 2, so our visits are more powerful. Once we start doing that, that's when we really make our splash in recruiting. This is what our board is currently looking like. Just 4 stars, lots of athletes because we're using Army, and just 1 quarterback that we're looking at. I could not find anybody else that we had a slight chance at getting at Army, so we're going to be competing with schools like Duke and UConn, with a team I believe has to have a good season because we just beat an FCS school 38-0 and it feels like we only got better. The schedule also looks pretty light. Navy, on the other hand, well, I'm looking at a Memphis, USF, Tulane, Rice, Notre Dame 5-game streak. Rice has been pretty good in years past, so we got to worry about them. I don't know how they're going to be. But just like with Army, Navy won their first game against an FCS school 38-0. And that's with sophomore quarterback Brian Bragg, who isn't the highest overall, but he does have 90 speed. He will develop into a beast for us. We got some extremely talented corners, just defensive backs on this roster, truly. And I almost feel like I'm tripping out for a second because the overalls are identical, the wins in the first game identical, so there has never been a time where Army and Navy are more even, except there are 2 quarterbacks that are on the board and more gyms for Navy than Army. We don't really know anything about Deontay Kronk, but no one else wanted the 4-star quarterback and he's a dual threat, so I thought we might as well put points into him. As for Hicks, he's gonna have 79 speed, so it's not that impressive, but he's a field general. And if there's anything crucial about rebuilding military schools, we always have to be thinking about who the next guy up's going to be, since they're only at the school for 4 years. Without the luxury of redshirting, you really got to be on top of things. We beat James Madison 31-0, who just earned a spot in the playoff, by the way, as I'm filming this. FAU, number 25 in the country, though, is next up on the schedule. And there is not another team that is more important for Army to face than the Owls, because this is their chance at revenge. There is nothing I'd rather see than us just coming out on top of this one in the rain. And you see the situation. 90 seconds on the clock, down by 3. We pitch it out to Balaj, and he's just going to get about 5. But we have to have faith that we can continue to run it well in the last minute. Ricky Riggins is about to get another carry. This time, it's going to be about 9 on the ground. And when you have a few successful runs in a row, the best thing you can do is pull out the play action, which even faked me out for this play. That could have been a great throw. Ultimately, there might only be one thing we can resort to, and that is a rocket toss to our star gadget receiver that is moved over to the running back position. We still have De Beer on this team as well. He's about to get a carry before we use a timeout, or we could just try and get out of bounds. I'm just not sure how much longer we can pretend that we're going to be running the football every play. We need to be able to throw it, and that one was just on target. Mo Prince has certainly not had a good game, though. We got the motion coming over, and we're still going to keep it on the ground with him. We probably should have called a timeout, but we've saved it. And there's no reason to even worry because we're in the end zone. We have taken down the team that beat us in the American Championship. Now, I don't know if we're going to find our spot back in that game, but I think that has to be the goal for the season. And after beating a top 25 team, I knew we'd be ranked. What we don't really know, though, is how good FAU actually is. They're about to take on Navy, and it just seems like the midshipmen couldn't do enough, losing by 3 points, outrushing them 180 yards to 103, but that's because they threw for a lot more. When stuff like that happens, you just have to take a step back and realize these programs are still in great spots. We're going to continue to bring in talent, and for the first time, both Navy and Army are ranked, as Army's 5-0. They beat North Texas, while Navy's got some wins on the schedule as well. Big one coming up at Notre Dame, though. I feel like we should hop into that one just to see if we could pull off the upset. But if we were to drop a game like this one at 4-2 Tulsa, I'd immediately lose interest in playing against the Fighting Irish. Luckily, that's not something we have to worry about, as we beat them 17-7. And even though it feels like players are starting to take notice, this class has nothing on the one we signed last year. We got a couple 4-star gyms alongside a right tackle. We should be getting one of these quarterbacks, potentially both of them, but outside of that, not too many 4-stars. I think we're going to finish with about 10, which is still incredible. I was just hoping to get to about 15 again. 99 overall Notre Dame. I can't say we're exactly built for it. What I've done with the Navy's head coach is we've made it to where we can scout for anyone. I think I already mentioned that, though. Then the main focus was just building up our defensive players. We also made it so receivers could block better. But Motivator has been the other pathway where our defensive players progress a little bit faster, faster, and they also start the fourth quarter hot in close games. The idea behind that is most of our games are close anyway, so if we can just get to the fourth quarter, maybe we pull away. And I have to do a little bit of digging to find out the last time that Navy went into Notre Dame Stadium and won. 2009 was the last time that they won in South Bend. They won in Jacksonville in 2016. So it actually hasn't been as long as I was thinking, and currently things are tied. Big 3rd and 3 coming up, though. We're about to give it to the senior fullback and hope that he finds the space. And that just seems to be the best way for us to get in. Then plays like that happen, though, where we get held up. So we're going with the quarterback power. We just glide our way through. And the fact that we can put up a fight like this on the road against one of the best teams in the country is a really good sign, but we just give up an easy touchdown. So we have not gotten the result that we desire yet, though the fullback toss gets us a decent bit. We really only need a field goal. I mean, it's very possible for us to do that. We got to get good blocks. And most importantly, we cannot fumble. Bragg going to take off to the outside. Wasn't the right move, but I think the fullback dive is going to be there for us. 15 just moved over. The center isn't going to matter. We saw the space. That stadium pulse, though, is only going to continue to get worse. But it's not going to matter if Bradbury gets a good run. And we haven't even taken a run to the other side, but we're just going to hand this one off and wait on the blocker. You know what? Now is a good time for the rocket toss. Let's just go ahead, see if that gets us anything. It didn't, but I have to have hope that we can convert on 3rd and 6, and Bragg won't. This field goal is not a gimme. There's a lot of pressure, but we hit it. And I am so nervous for this final 70 seconds because we cannot let Notre Dame get into field goal range, which is looking likely. They've literally only run one play, but we can already see the writing on the wall. And after running up to the line, getting off this snap quick, they've got the drag and the first. I actually decided to call a timeout, though, so we could adjust our defense one final time. All we can do is hope that they are going to make a mistake, but we left him open. Notre Dame's going to come up. They're going to spike the ball, and it feels like we're about to lose. They run to the outside, though, and we can push him backwards. To me, the real question is, are we able to get them out of field goal range? And we are! I can't believe it. They actually sent 7. We need to drop these guys back, though, and make sure they don't give up anything big. I'm really worried. 50-50 ball. Swat at it. We're fine. It has been done. Navy has won in South Bend. And who cares? We already had a loss this season. I think we move into the top 15. Brian Bragg is just a sophomore able to do this. And if Army can take down Tulane, we're about to have the top 25 looking like an NCAA football 14 dynasty. There is some good news for the Black Knights. Win or lose, they've gotten more commits. But I guess there's been a lot of disrespect for taking down Tulane in overtime. We're number 22. It turns out, though, this is the week the college football playoff rankings have come out, and Army and Navy just snuck into the top 25, whereas the coaches poll has both of these programs inside the top 20 already. As for the rest of our conference, Charlotte is looking like they're going to make it to the conference championship game. That just blows my mind. They are half a star as their team prestige, and I don't even know if this is going to be an effective hard sell, but I feel like we have to try something new on some of these players. We have just been slowly losing the battle to other schools. Even though we got the quarterback that we wanted, Kyrie Hardy, Army's in a similar position in Navy where there's just these battles that we can't seem to close out. Other programs enter at the end and we won't win, which is really not ideal. And over the next few weeks that we're about to simulate, Army's got to take on Air Force while Navy plays at Rice. Then you got games like on the road at Tulane for Navy. UAB coming to town should be a freebie theoretically. Charlotte against Army might be for a conference championship. Just a lot of stuff going on, but since I can only hop into one regular season game a year for both of these teams, we have to sit on the sideline. It's really frustrating whenever you lose games like this one to Charlotte that Army couldn't pull out. Maybe they are actually legit. They beat us by 1 point. USF still in schedule before we play Navy. And I will say, as I'm looking through the polls, there's something surprising about us being at 25, which is the fact that Navy's up there at number 20, but they have that quality win over Notre Dame. So that's important to keep in mind. Notre Dame's the number 2 team in the country. It's really keeping them up there. We're the only 2 teams that are even ranked inside our conference. And on Navy's side of things, they dropped a game on the road to Rice by 1 point, but they've been able to close out these last 2 very closely. They had a lot of road games in a row. Now they're hosting Memphis before the Army one. And there were also some visiting prospects coming in for that game. It looks like we did well. They're committing. In fact, it went about as well as it possibly could have. 45-9, 377 yards on the ground. We gotta see what that looks like. Only 23 passing yards, but look at these carries. It's truly impressive. And on a running back, JD Tandy, we have been trying so hard to sway him because his original hard sell was this, but that's not going to be effective. Although there have been some losses of 4 stars that we weren't able to pick up, like that right tackle or Duke getting this corner. By this point point in the year, there are 8 4-stars that are signed, including these 2 4-star quarterbacks, and then, of course, the gyms at the top. I've also made it a focus to start filling out the bottom of the board with positions of need. And I've been doing the exact same thing with Army, who's getting their rematch against Charlotte in the conference championship. Now, I'm just realizing the game I showed you all that I thought was Navy literally said Army right there and I didn't read. We're the team that beat USF by this much. For whatever reason, using 2 teams in Dynasty, the game just defaults to one of those schedules, even when I'm selected as Navy, so that's why I was on it. And this makes a lot more sense. We knew that they were playing Memphis. They won 31-14. I can only imagine how lost some of you felt for me to most likely say we're about to take on Memphis, then show you a score of Army against USF. Anyway, looking at the recruiting board, lots of losses coming up, but we knew it was happening. It's just the way things are. Army and Navy both ranked in the top 18 at the moment. I don't know what would happen if we got to play in the conference championship. Then we had the Army-Navy game as well. And I'm actually really curious what might happen to Navy's ranking if they're able to win this matchup. I've got it down that they've dominated the series so far 4-1. But you would think they'd jump over a team like Notre Dame, who is 9-3, and they beat. So that's just something to think about as the stakes for this rivalry continue to get higher and higher. This game is going to be a classic as well, because with 2.5 minutes left, Navy down by 8, inside the 10-yard line, looking to pick up this 3rd and 4, but they're going to have to catch that one, and they can't. It all comes back to Army recruiting a little bit better athletes. They swatted that ball down. Big 4th and 4 for Navy that they're just gonna get. Army is gonna need that goal line stand. And Kiki Udazeki only has 23 yards on the ground in this game, their fullback, but I thought he was in there, and he was. With that ball just crossing the plane, this 2-point conversion could not be more important. Is Navy gonna give Army another heartbreaker? It looks like they're leaving the flat open, but he can't make it all the way. And they're pulling out the onside kick, even having 3 timeouts, which is interesting. Now, why is Army coming out in shotgun? There are so many formations in their playbook where all they would do is run the triple option. But it's like EA hasn't even properly coded the computer to use them anyway. Seems like we're going to have a quarterback keeper. And on 3rd and 10 is when they decide to go under center. It seems like Navy's about to get that stop. Yeah, they are. The midshipmen have their chance. And so far in this video, Army just has not been able to win this game very much at all. Like I said, they've only won it once. There is a chance my stat tracking is a little off though. So if I'm incorrect, maybe I am. Don't crush me in the comments for it. Minute on the clock. Navy just got 9 yards through the air. They obviously have no reason to be running the football right now, but they're going to throw an interception. They're going to throw an interception. Army has done it. We have some competitiveness back in this rivalry because they are not going to fall to the midshipmen. And Manuel Batonio is the hero that the Black Knights needed. To be honest, though, more focus needs to just shift straight to this conference championship because you can't lose it twice in a row. There's no guarantee Army will continue to make it back here, and since they lost the head-to-head, Charlotte has the home field advantage for this game, but it didn't matter for us last year. In fact, I don't think it would have mattered if Charlotte had a huge home field advantage. They still would not have been able to beat this team just based off of our athletes. We're kind of having fun at the end, just running up the score, making sure that this team gets into the college football playoff because we don't want to be disrespected. But it has been a blowout the entire way through, and that type of blocking is why. Who would have thought? You start getting some better offensive linemen in and some better fullbacks, and you dominate. Ricky Riggins has been great for us. I think we just earned a playoff spot. And seeing a quarterback throw for like 5,000 yards, that is just a foreign concept to us. I don't know what any of that is. We are going to get Pittsburgh in the 1st round. So Army is actually in, and I feel like that 1st round matchup is very winnable. I don't want to spoil for myself where Navy finished, but we are going to have to see them in the rankings drop in the 20. But if they would have just avoided one other loss, they might have been in playoff contention, especially if they avoided 2 of those bad losses. 3 interceptions out of Mo Prince. Not too bad for the junior. Look at all of these rushing yards. 2 guys over 1,000 yards. Mo Prince almost at 1,000 himself. And Ricky Riggins putting up stats like that lets me know we're not worried about blocking on our fullbacks in the future. All that matters is that they're fast, they're agile. And before I even check out anything going on Navy's side of things, I have to play this game against Pittsburgh. They average 43 points per game, so it might be a fast one, but I have to see if we can move on in the playoff. This is a historic milestone in this video. We have found our way to enough success to stumble into the playoff. And I'm gonna be honest, our defense just didn't show up. If they're not showing up, there's not too much that we can do about it. But I respect the fact that Mo Prince hasn't given up yet, and he's being patient, but missing his throw. You really cannot miss a pass like that, but our handoff goes for a little. And I wish it would have just suggested like the fullback dive because that would have worked better. I have found it. We will put our season in the hands of Ricky Riggins, who gets into the end zone. But how are we going to get them off of the field? That is the real question here. If they have a deep route, I mean, we might just be cooked. They had so many open options. Unfortunately, there's just not that much that we're going to be able to do against Pittsburgh. Ty Slaughter has almost 500 passing yards. This offense is legit. They are the 5 seed for a reason. And I am not sure I've ever felt more helpless in my life, but this is a great milestone. Ty Slaughter actually slaughtered our defense, though. Like, actually. There's nothing else that needs to be said about this season. I'm gonna act like it didn't happen. The Fenway Bowl against Stanford for Navy. It's definitely a winnable game. We didn't even get over 1,000 yards through the air. We had more interceptions than touchdowns with Brian Bragg, but that doesn't matter. We care about what he did on the ground. 3.1 yards per carry. That can definitely be improved. And you have to wonder, how many of these guys are potentially running backs in the future once we develop them? Once again, I can confirm that Navy's gonna have a better recruiting class than Army. We'll see how those classes turn out once we get to the offseason. For now, the focus is beat Stanford. And that'd be an excellent way to end this season, where it just feels like they always come up short of what's possible. This Navy team beat Notre Dame on the road, and now they're in a position where a touchdown puts them in front of Stanford. But they just prevented us from picking up the first, which is why it's a little crazy, but instead of kicking a field goal to tie things up, we're gonna go for it, and we just got to cut it back. That'll be enough. Joey Rosas is exhausted, so he cannot be out there for another carry. This one will get us a little bit closer. And I think we're just going to have to lean on our defense, assuming our fullback can punch us in here, which he can. There is no guarantees at the end, though. You never know what you're going to give up, what type of crazy things they're going to do. So I'd really appreciate if we could just lock in and have our defensive line get some pressure. It's a 50-50 ball, and Yolito is going to snag it out of the air. Well, we might even return it for a pick 6 to make this score look worse. What a finish to the season for Navy. What a play. The Fenway Bowl is ours, Stanford going down. And I think with both of these programs finishing inside the top 20, it is a huge milestone. We are starting to separate ourselves from the rest of the American. I wouldn't be surprised if we met in the conference championship next year. I'm hoping Army can run it back. And it's no surprise we had a first-round pick on our team with our high overall defensive backs. It's exactly what you want to see. As for Army, we're also just going to have to accept that we're losing a lot of talented starters. It's the way it is every year, especially if we're training up receivers to move them over to halfbacks to be good for a year. And even though we didn't use Kelvin DeBeer as a senior, we're still very thankful for what he did. We just had better running back options that carried us to the playoff. It looks like we actually got a cornerback drafted in the 7th round as well, so that's going to really help our pro potential there. Whereas on Navy's side of things, they might have the best pro potential grade for defensive backs. They produce good ones every season now. What I ended up doing during the off-season period was just filling out these classes as much as I could. It's basically just 3-star signings, a couple of 4-stars we might have finished out on, and I think EA really needs to add a feature where you can skip over all of those screens, because I just had to hit the button to skip 27 times. It was a lot, but this is what the board is looking like for the Black Knights. Now, there is a 4-star receiver that we lost to Baylor. Not much we could do about it. It is what it is. 7 4-stars in this class. We're starting off with a normal dev and another one. Impact on the quarterback, not the end of the world. Star's going to be the best we see. And that's on an athlete that we can move to any spot on the field. Navy did finish with the higher rated class at number 16, 10 4-stars, while Army was just inside the top 25. And I gotta say, the loss of a 4-star normal dev running back is not the end of the world for this Navy team. As you can see, plenty of signings with the 3 stars as well. Missouri took away a right guard, so they didn't only take away a running back. But I think what really matters here is the dev trade of some of these guys. We got star and elite on a cornerback, so we're going to continue to develop defensive backs extremely well. Juwan Hicks, elite development. Navy gets another quarterback that can be a monster. And the rest of these dev traits ended up being pretty lame. Most of them is normal, even on the other 4-star quarterback, but it doesn't matter. We got elite. It is now my favorite and the most lengthy thing I have to do every offseason though, and that is building each team, both rosters, as best as I can through training results and position changes so they perform well on the field. Von Redding's going to be an 89 overall running back. And I think that's the biggest position change I'm going to make for Navy, while on Army's side of things, I have all of these athletes that I just have to assign a position to, and even with George Cage, I might put him anywhere on defense depending on how players progress. After spending a couple hours building the Army and Navy rosters the way I intended, it looks like we've gotten an 84 overall with Army, so there's not been much of a drop-off, even though they lost a lot of good seniors last year. I will say, there are some issues on offense. Running back-wise, the best we have is Bobby Chestnut. He's a contact seeker, but with only 89 speed, we'll see how effective he actually is. Fullback just has speed on him. And it might seem like I'm being pretty negative, but for the future of Army football, receivers, some gadgets in here, very good. Tight ends as well, a lot to choose from. and we've even settled on a quarterback, Kyrie Hardy. The 4-star should always have been the guy we were settling for anyway. I was just a bit worried about only having impact development and his speed being 80, but we can upgrade. And he won't have to start until next year because of Mo Prince. The senior quarterback is up to a 93 overall. He isn't as quick as I'd like, only 89 speed. His elusiveness could have gotten better too. But we just didn't put a lot of focus there, and with 9 seniors, 16 juniors, over the next 2 years, all we have to do is recruit about 25 players to replace those guys. So we're gonna go for the best of the best, starting with a 5-star gym. I don't think Army has what it takes to beat out Ohio State for him, but we're gonna do it anyway. We also have some 4-star defenders and some other players like receivers that we needed to fill. It's a similar situation for Navy. They actually do need some receivers down the line, or else there won't be enough on the roster, so we have to sign a couple. And they only have 4 seniors and 13 juniors, which means basically the entire roster is young. A couple years from now, when these sophomores are seniors, is when these teams are going to be at their best. That's been the idea, is I've really intentionally built these teams over the past couple years to get to that level. As you'll see, there are some juniors that I hope don't declare for the NFL draft early on this roster. And Von Redding is the running back to lean on. He is 215 pounds, 90 speed, very elusive. He could still get better. But that can be said for basically every skill position on Navy's offense. Brian Bragg, now an 84 overall junior, he could get up to like 99 speed. And even our 82 overall, 88 speed fullback is just a junior. Receivers, juniors, sophomores. I'm telling you, everybody's going to return next year besides a couple guys, and it's going to be big for Navy. Surprisingly though, with so much youth on this team, it's the worst that I think our defensive back room has ever been across the board, so that's going to need to change. And it might be about time that we start to spend a little bit more in tactician with our coach, just because our offensive line could use some better blocking, and our quarterback could use some better stats too. That's basically all I needed to cover before the start of the season. The goal is simple: recruit a bunch of 4-stars with these schools, win a lot of games. And so far, so good. Both teams are currently undefeated. USF almost took down Navy, but outside of that, they've been winning pretty easily. After facing off against Memphis, though, the big game against Notre Dame is up on the schedule. And we've already lost out on a 4-star corner from Missouri. He decided he wanted to commit to the Tigers. I can't be upset about it, though he was a gym, so he would have been nice to have. For the rest of these battles, some of them we're being locked out of. Our playing style's just not good enough, which is not a problem that Army's run into, which means they might be able to sign more 4-stars for the first time. Now, we've had to do a lot of work. It took about 3 weeks of swaying Kasim Trimble to make him change his hard sell. I'm not even sure if it's going to be worth it in the end because Georgia Tech is about to close out. And then for cornerback Austin Lake, LSU probably is. We just don't have the pipeline tiers that some of these other schools do, but we do have a chance at getting the 5-star gym still. Jared Washington is on a visit this week whenever UAB comes to town. And I wasn't sure if it could be done, but it has. Army signed a 5-star, and I'm surprised that Navy didn't end up going after him because we pulled him straight out of their territory. For UAB being 1-5, I wish we were able to beat them by a little bit more, but Army can't have any complaints because while they were able to pick up a win, Navy fell to Memphis at home. That's actually going to drop them outside of the top 25, while Army rises up to number 19 in the country. And it feels like for another season in a row, Navy's going to struggle to get to the conference championship while Army just has a cakewalk there. There is still time for that to change, though. Navy has to find a way to get a huge win over Notre Dame again. But I don't have a great feeling about this one, knowing that most of their roster is still young and needs to develop. I'm here to say, though, that didn't matter at all. Notre Dame fell 23-3. It was never a contest. And that was with them having about as many total yards of offense as us, all due to one reason. If I scroll down, you're going to see the turnovers. They had 4 to our 0, which makes it really obvious why that game played out the way that it did. But 1-5 UTSA just surprised Army at home. We can still hop into a game with the Black Knights this season. I'll have to choose one of the final ones. As we get through a couple more weeks, you'll see that there's a road game against North Texas coming up. Army is still winning, and this is probably the hardest game left on the schedule outside of Navy. So it's the best one for us to play. I don't know if either team faces Tulane, but if they don't, then Tulane's just going to be in the conference championship against one of the two teams. Though it seems like the week after going on the road at UAB, that is who Navy's going to have to face. Then recruiting-wise, Army has lost out on a 4-star safety to Duke. Outside of that, though, in Georgia Tech taking over a linebacker, all these battles are going extremely well. There's even a quarterback that probably gets as close to my name as possible, Jamerson Boudreaux, instead of James Bordeaux. It's not like he's got the best stats in the world. His name is the only reason he's being recruited. And this is our chance to basically lock up our spot in the conference championship unless we lose some game that we shouldn't, which has already happened one time this year to UTSA. The best part about the rosters we've been constructing is how solid the defense is. They just continue to dominate in conference play. And we don't even need to score that many points to win these games. Until North Texas's offense came alive at the very end when we had our second stringers in on defense. There was no hope for the Mean Green, and all three of our teams in our conference just got ranked in the same week, so this is a very good push for that 5th playoff spot. Unless Boise State loses a game, though, we might not get in. That's actually really sad to see, because collectively, our conference is taking care of business better than ever. And assuming Army takes down Rice this week, it is just going to be these 3 programs at the top, with Navy and Tulane also facing off. This is an opportunity for the midshipmen to continue to elevate instead of just staying around a few losses a season. And it might have been a tight one, but Tulane has fallen to Navy. In the final week before the Army-Navy game, beating Charlotte wasn't a problem, but I guess looking at team schedules is going to spoil what happens next, because not only is Navy going to finish 10-1, but Army is as well, just surviving those last 2 matchups, so we have back-to-back games. Now, in real life, the conference championship would come before the Army-Navy game, like I've said, but it's going to be flip-flopped here. I don't know why EA set it up that way. We're also not inside the top 12, either team, but the tiebreaker over Tulane means if one of these programs can win both of these games, there's a lot of hope for a playoff spot, despite Boise State being number 10. If teams like Houston, USC win the conference championship, we could still be the 5th highest rated conference champion, even if Boise State wins. And I don't even have any words for how crazy this is. I guess we got back-to-back games with playoff implications. Somebody probably needs to win both. I don't think this will have any implications on who gets to host the conference championship either. I think that's already been decided, but this one's played on a neutral site. And you would think, with senior quarterback Mo Prince, Army was going to be really good offensively, but they're not going to score. This first game between these 2 teams has just been a blowout. I wasn't expecting it. I thought the Black Knights look a little bit better on paper, but I guess they didn't. Final play of the game, they're not even going to get on the board. And that is what happens when you don't have as talented of running backs as you did the season before. After whatever that was, these teams have to play again. Now, they've played 7 times in this video so far, and Navy is up on the series 5-2. So they have to feel pretty good about where they're at the moment, getting home field advantage in this conference championship since they had the better win over Tulane. I don't know what happened over the last week, though, but Army's completely changed the way they're performing. So after Navy spikes the ball, we can talk about the fact that Army's currently up by 8. The midshipmen have also thrown for more passing yards in this game than we've seen out of any team so far. They've rushed for like 200, but Brian Briggs also has like 176 yards through the air on 4th and 9 just to stay in it. He throws into double coverage. So this season, the teams are going to split the series 1-1. It also means Army is winning back-to-back conference championships. And I'm hoping it's a given in the future that between these 2 teams, one of them's taking home that trophy every year. I don't know if the playoff committee is actually going to put Army in. That decision is coming up as we skip through some of these signings, like myself. But one thing that needed to happen was those lower-ranked teams winning conference championships like the Big 12. So seeing that the Houston Cougars had a Heisman Trophy winner, I don't know if it's a good sign. I mean, we're in the Hawaii Bowl. I guess it wasn't a good sign. Colorado couldn't beat Houston, so there was no chance to jump above them in the rankings. And also, Army got punished for losing to Navy, but Navy didn't get punished for losing to Army. I guess this is just more proof that you're not going to be punished much for losing in your conference championship. Army was punished, though, for losing the Army-Navy game. So after going 11-2, they have the Hawaii Bowl against New Mexico. It should be easy for them to finish this season 12-2. I just can't believe they got dropped so far for losing to Navy, who's considered a top 16 team. And as this game winds down, I honestly just feel bad for New Mexico. They did their best, but they weren't ever going to put up a real fight against us. We kind of let them come back in at the end. It is no secret, this was a top 25 roster, and it got snubbed of even being in the top 25 and getting a real bowl. I was just hoping Mo Prince was going to finish his career with a bigger game. 17 passing touchdowns, some of the most that we've seen out of our quarterbacks. He also had almost 1,000 rushing yards. Look at the splits between our running backs and fullbacks. Just pure domination on the ground, and there's really not reason for us to throw the ball. I can't believe we had 17 passing touchdowns. Meanwhile, Navy's going to have to take on Missouri in the Armed Forces Bowl. And you want to know what the most upsetting part about all of this is that I just noticed? Eastern Michigan was the 5th highest ranked conference champion to get into the playoff. That is right. Apparently, Boise State lost against Colorado State. I don't know how I didn't pick up on this. So Eastern Michigan got ranked. And I guess you have to argue who had worse losses. They lost to Auburn and Buffalo, while UTSA and Navy were able to beat Army. I think Army should have been ranked above them. But I said if either one of those military schools wanted to get the playoff spot, they were going to have to win both the conference championship and the Army-Navy game. You couldn't split. As frustrating as that is, it just shows in the future the rivalry is even bigger. And winning games like this are extremely important for earning respect. So Navy is going to need to have a good final couple of minutes. Down by 8, I don't even love this play call on 4th down, but we were not able to scramble for the first, And Reading is going to get around to the edge, but not fight. So Missouri has us exactly where they want us as they keep on picking up first downs. And they're going to win this game by 10. Wait, it's a fumble. Hang on. Hang on. There's no review or anything. I thought for sure there was going to be a review. That guy was on the ground. But this is a chance. This is a chance. It was really just a gift. I thought the season was already over. We're going to run around with Bragg. I mean, this is why he has 94 speed. Just imagine what he's going to do next year as a senior when he gets even faster. Explosiveness is big. I wish it didn't take us all game to look dangerous against Missouri. He's going to need to make a good throw, though, and it be caught, just for us to feel like there is still a little bit of a chance. And there is. Getting this onside kick would help a ton, but we don't necessarily need it. Missouri will scoop it up. And I believe we have the defense to get the Tigers off of the field here. Or we'll just give up the first down immediately. Unfortunately, they have been smart about how they've handled this, so it's over. But we put up a good fight against Missouri. I just wish we could have taken them down. As a senior, Brian Bragg's going to want to achieve more than just that. He only rushed for 580 yards, so he still has not been able to find a way to get more than a few yards per carry to get up to those 800, 900-yard rushing totals that we have seen with Army's quarterback. But Von Reading is him. He just went from getting no yards per carry, no carries at all, to this season getting 291 for 1,621 yards. All of those guys are returning. Same thing with our receivers, which makes me believe either Navy or Army has got to make a college football playoff appearance next season. The top 25 is going to finish with both of those programs inside it. And when we talk about the losses that these teams are going to face, it's really not that many. Cortez Priestley was a big signing whenever we got him. Kane McBath is also not a fun loss. These linemen won't matter. But that was literally all the midshipmen are losing. Army's losing a bit more talent. 7 or 8 starters here. They're going to be missed. But ultimately, I know in the future we're going to have even better guys than this, so we just want to keep on developing. Now, as we prepare for the next 2 seasons, these players are going to be some of the final signings that we make until we potentially need more a couple years from now. Outside of special teams, I think next year we need to recruit a kicker and a punter for both programs, but as you can see, we were able to sign 11 4-stars at Navy. The best roster potentially in school history comes 2 years from now, so we need guys with elite development like Nasir Turbin because he could actually be a starter on that team since he'll have so many skill points. If you're wondering how our classes turned out, well, Army did sign a couple more 4-stars. They also had that 5-star, which bumps them into the top 25. But with both of these classes, my only goal was just fill the extra holes that are still on our team. It looks like we aren't going to get a player with elite development, so that's unfortunate until we found Jarius Abram. I should also mention myself, Jamerson Boudreaux is going to have normal dev, so he will not be our starting quarterback ever. But now is when the real roster building can begin. We have players like Nate Hope, who are a north-south blockers, a running back. I recruited these guys with the idea of eventually making them a fullback once they're talented. And if I were to move any of our gadget receivers over to running back this season, I could get them to a decent overall, like an 88 on Frank, but I actually want to wait because with one more year of development here, we're able to purchase elusiveness and power for extremely cheap, and he'll become a much better running back capped out at 91 speed. As for Navy, there are some players that they just can't wait on any longer, so we're going to start moving them over. Look at the overall difference from wide receiver to halfback. Not that this running back room needed any more help. This is before training results as well. It's going to be insane. There is nothing more fun than taking some of these guys and increasing their overall as high as I possibly can. We know run stopping is going to help on Joey, so we have our first 99 overall. He had about 30 total skill points to spend, which was helpful. For Von Reading, we could get his speed even higher, or we could max out his elusiveness, and we're going for speed. He's going to be a 92. I do wish we were able to spend a little bit more on some of these abilities, but Brawn Shifty and Gold Sidestep should do. Of course, quarterback for Navy is a big position, and with 97 speed, Brian Bragg is going to be a beast, but due to his archetype, these abilities are either not unlocked or they wouldn't be that useful, so we're just going to start boosting his accuracy, we'll boost his IQ, and will even boost some of his elusiveness. Now, on Army's side of things, I feel like this season isn't going to be as exciting. Kyrie Hardy, our quarterback, we want him to be accurate, but we also need him to become faster. His speed didn't even go up. I'm very concerned about what our offense could potentially look like, and it's not a great sign when our best player is a wide receiver. The defensive side of the ball is going to have to carry, but it's looking like it's going to. We're going to have a cornerback with only 90 speed, but some of the best man coverage in the country is a 94. And people are probably probably going to start wondering whether it's Navy or Army that's producing the better defensive backs, as there is also a 94 overall free safety in Matthew Sanders. At the end of training results, this is the team that Army's going to be putting out there on the field. There are so many talented seniors that are about to be drafted, whereas Navy seems to have a little bit less talent. Their running back room is as good as it possibly gets, but that's about it. Most of their players won't be at their best until next season, which is why Army's going to start the year ranked inside the top 25 as a 97 overall team, while Navy is just a 96 unranked. It doesn't matter how broken I know the overall system is in this game, I'll still get excited for it every time I see a high number. We're getting ready for our first ones of the season, and there's just a lot of simulating to do since we can only play one game in the regular season with each one of these teams. Tulsa almost shocked the Black Knights. We're about to go on 3 straight road games, but headed into that stretch, we've climbed up to number 14 in the country, and Navy has been able to get to 17. With the midshipmen, I already know which game I'm hopping into. Even though Memphis and Tulane on the road are going to be tough, we're always going to have to face off against Notre Dame because that's going to be the most challenging opponent. And I was not kidding when I said I was only going to recruit players for our special teams during this season. To my surprise, we are seeing a little bit of competition, and the whole reason we can even do this in the first place is because of all those juniors and sophomores developing, freshmen too. Army actually had a decent sized class the year before, and UAB, the next opponent, we're about to sim through a few more. As we've been doing that, senior edge Owen Lapierre has set the Army career sacks record. It's not often that I really get to highlight some of our defensive players, but currently he is 31 in his career, and I'm hoping he can continue that the rest of this season. We're only halfway through the year. He is a 93. And it seems like besides that scare against Tulsa, every other game we have had full control of, even on the road, though North Texas at 8-0 is coming up the same week that Notre Dame plays Navy. I think it makes perfect sense to hop into those two games, so we're going to be playing with both of these programs this week, where both teams are starting to climb up in the rankings quite a bit. I wish Notre Dame was actually having a good season, that they weren't 6-3, because it'd be an opportunity for an even larger win, and as you can see, it's North Texas at the top of the American with us. I think our roster is better than any other teams in the American though, so we should be able to cruise by. And assuming Army wins all the way up until the Navy game potentially, they'd be 11-0, probably a top 5 team. What we have run into though is running the triple option with an 82 speed quarterback isn't that simple. Kyrie Hardy just needs more time to develop. I think we were expecting that. At least he's able to throw solidly down the field. We're already in a position where we should get a field goal, but we would still like to get some more gains. And that pitch has just messed up this whole drive. It is now 3rd and 16. We're probably not going to convert here unless Tubbs makes the catch. And do you know how crazy you have to be to go for it on 4th and 2 and not care at all? That wasn't worth it. Nate Hope has 18 carries for 30 yards. And we cannot let North Texas get anything. Already on a 3rd and long, they're just sending up a prayer. We got to go for the pick or knock it out. And that's going to give us an opportunity to still get a field goal. If our blocks are holding strong, Pope is going to have a chance at a return. But what I'm looking for is him on the sideline as he looked like he beat the press. We have guys on this team that are so much better than what North Texas has out there. But the beauty of football is sometimes that just does not matter. And after missing R1, we're going to be headed to overtime. I don't know what Kyrie Hardy was thinking there. He's not fast enough to do anything else. But it is what it is. We're just going to need to get a stop in overtime, which is what we do. Literally the first play for North Texas, and they just can't help themselves. They give us the football. We haven't really done anything with our drive, though, to set up for an easier field goal. So we're just going to have to trust our senior, who's ice. I think he's like an 85 overall. I mean, if he missed this, it would have been a heartbreaker, but we survive. Outside of Navy, they were the one team in our conference that I was super worried about. And if the undefeated season is going to continue for both of these programs, Navy's got to win in South Bend. The last time we pulled it off, it felt like an incredible feat, but now that we've been able to beat Notre Dame, it doesn't seem as hard for us to do it. But we sure haven't been able to close this game out yet, as that ball was just out of reach. Notre Dame down by 7 with a few minutes left, trying to figure out how they're going to get into the end zone. But I feel like we're going to hang on. We've done really well so far in this game, and they actually threw it as I pulled away. If there's anything that we should take away from that, it's that we should just be user and a safety instead. And they've sent it at our defensive back. They're testing Flood. He's a star corner, but I guess he's just not that good at breaking up everything. Halfback screen goes for a lot. We can all see what this game is coming down to. Quick drag for 4, and they're probably going to go for another one or a quick read there. 26 seconds left now. It's a handoff that we're all over with Duarte, and this is the game. We're playing underneath, but that is a great throw, and he drops it. That might go down as one of the worst drops in program history for Notre Dame. The worst drop of all time. How do you not catch the ball there? It's safe to say that we lucked out with that, though Navy drops down to number 12 in the rankings after beating Notre Dame. I have a feeling that if either one of these teams lose any games this season, they're not getting a playoff appearance. And just simulating straight to the conference championship game, I don't think either team is lost, but Navy might have if they're number 11. I really had no worries that either military school was going to lose, though USF gave the midshipmen a scare. Outside of that, Navy is 11-0. And so is Army. Looking at this defense, by the way, the most points it gave up was 21 to UAB. And these two teams, compared to the rest of the conference, are just on a completely different level, giving up 131 total points and 120 throughout their seasons. You see the drop-off for the other schools. And for the second year in a row, we have back-to-back games between Army and Navy. The first one is not for an automatic bid in the college football playoff. It's just the Army-Navy game that's played every single year. But I almost feel like the implications of this one is stronger because it's what dropped Army so far last season for losing. I'll say this as well. It's not looking amazing for the Black Knights. They're currently trailing by 3, and they're going to go for a pass here that gets them to midfield. Kyrie Hardy has thrown 2 interceptions in this game. He just totaled over 1,000 passing yards. But will they be able to get into field goal range? Will they be able to send it to overtime? Pressure like that from Navy is going to make it difficult. 2nd and 16. It's just a throw that's dropped. And I've noticed Army has already used one of their 3 timeouts, so they cannot afford to get stopped. You want to pick up at least like 6 yards here. That is why Kyrie's running. But this is it. For all we know, this could drop Army in the rankings down to like 20. It wasn't a respected loss last season, and I'm not sure how Navy continues to do it, but they win another. It just feels like they have owned this series, mainly because they have, but they're taking a knee with 47 seconds left. There's a reason we are still watching. They're also going for it instead of punting, which would put Army in incredible field positioning. It does. So what are the midshipmen even thinking? If they somehow got out of bounds in just 4 seconds with a quick throw, they're not going to. They could have made things interesting. But ultimately, Navy's defense, the focus of their entire team, this whole rebuild, was the thing that held strong and won them the game. Before we watch the rematch, though, I want to point something out. Look at Bud Elliott's blue chip ratio. Currently, Navy and Army are in the top 15 based off of how they've been recruiting. And that is a major factor into these teams' rankings because it shows a lot of their roster is built out of 4-star, 5-star guys. It makes me think that Army might not be punished that bad for their loss to Navy if they're able to win the conference championship. But now it is their turn to get a defensive stop, which they literally did on the first play. Max Landry with the interception might have just sent Army back to the playoff. And when you have a senior quarterback making that throw, it's really bad. I mean, that literally could be the last play of his career outside of a bowl game that he wants to be in because they got the first. And although Army is down in this rivalry series in the video 4-6, they've now won their 3rd conference championship. I feel bad for Brian Bragg because he was literally a perfect build for Navy's offense. His accuracy was solid and he had 97 speed, but he choked that game away for them, and this is how the rankings have responded. Army is going to be sitting at number 9, while Navy stays at number 11. I actually can't believe they did either because 11-2 Texas and 11-2 Ohio State, who lost in the conference championships of the Big Ten and the SEC, fell beneath them. We know the committee would never do that. So that means both teams have made it into the college football playoff. I didn't even know if that would be possible. Next season's supposed to be their best season, by the way, not this year. James Abraham, we remember that name from Pittsburgh. He is a awesome player. A really good quarterback I hope we do not have to face in the playoff if Pittsburgh was able to get back. Looks like Clemson is the matchup. And it's nice to see we had the best center in the country on our team. That probably contributed to the 1,638 rushing yards that Nate Hope, our fullback, was able to get on 5.8 yards per carry. The best part about him is even though he's only a 75 overall and he only has 83 speed, he will be back next season. And I actually think recoup is a really good ability to get on a fullback that's getting that many touches because it'll help them recover fatigue. One last note I have for Army's offense, though, only 400 rushing yards out of Kyrie Hardy. That just shows that we have got to get his speed up because typically we have much bigger rushers. And the playoff game that Navy's going to get is against Nebraska. Now, it's important to note that neither one of these teams gets to host, so we're going to have to go on the road. They're on different sides of the bracket. If we somehow are able to make the championship and get a rematch, that'd be insane. I don't think this is the year for it, but you never know. They went undefeated besides beating up on each other. Brian Bragg, 4 interceptions. He was able to get less than 500 rushing yards. That's not good for having 97 speed. By now, I've kind of picked up on Navy's offense being a little bit weaker than Army's. And I just saw the overall of Nebraska that we're going to have to face on the road. They score 40 points per game and they are a 99 overall. I guess they better get ready to learn some triple option. I got no idea how this is about to go, but I'm actually feeling all right. We've held them to 0 points in the first half. We're trying to get a little bit more before the end of it. and the pitches just have a lot of failures. I mean, it gets so frustrating a lot of the time. We're rolling out here, trying to get into field goal range, but that's gonna be knocked. And we might just need to take off with Bragg for a little bit. That's probably our best chance at getting a little bit closer with his 97 speed. And how nice of him to even center it up for us. We have a 2-possession lead. I'm really starting to think that Nebraska's offense was just really bad, though, as they give us a pick to end this game. And you see the score. They only got a field goal against us. They never did anything for 4 quarters. Navy becomes the first team to win a college football playoff game in this video. And Army's got their chance to match them. They're just going to have to head to Death Valley and take on Clemson. This is not the same Clemson team that just went like 6-6. Though with 2 minutes left on the clock, the Tigers are actually trailing by 4. Our defense still needs to get one more stop against Clemson, but I feel like that's very manageable for us. Can we force a pick? We just have to keep their quarterback guessing. Underneath, they have an awful read. But here we go. On 3rd and 10, they just go underneath to get a couple yards. And we have Clemson right where we want them. As long as we're not giving up anything deep, we should be okay. But of course, they have someone. George Teamer keeps them in it. We ran cover 3 too many times. So it is no surprise that they picked up on it as they now go up the seam and get knocked down. How quickly it becomes 3rd and long for them. They keep on running that play where they got the guy motioning over, trying to mess with some of our defense. But this could be it right here. They go for the slant. It was 4th and 1. We went with man-to-man coverage. And I am starting to think that we need to run some man-to-man. Big 3rd and 1 coming up. The drag is not there, but they're going to scramble. And they're just going to try and get off another quick snap. We are literally sending 2. They have to throw it away. We are not going to press in the final seconds. I don't trust our team there. We got 4. They blocked quite a few. And it's another case where no one was open. So this is it. We are dropping everybody back. We can't give up a touchdown. No, it's deflected into Sanders' hands. I don't think it's worth it to even try and return it to rub things in, but I thought that he caught that football there. And if that is how we lost a playoff game with Army, I would have been devastated. We move on, though, and we get number 1 Pittsburgh. They're undefeated, but we knew they were coming up. Navy is going to get USC. And we already know the Panthers' offense is going to be scary. 43 points per game. They got the Heisman Trophy winner. They got great receivers. But we have earned our spot in the quarterfinal, and I still believe in this team. You know who didn't believe in this team, though? Our defense. Our defense that gave up 38 points. Offense finally figuring it out. It's just way too late, and I knew this was probably going to happen, but I at least thought we might still be in it more than this. To stay in the game, we really need this 2-point conversion where we have somebody open. But this onside kick is also a big deal. Pittsburgh deflects it and then scoops it up. All they have to do is just run the football successfully, and instead they decided to take a sack. I don't really understand it. Can we get him out of bounds? That would have been huge. Now it's 3rd and 14, and they threw the football, but I accidentally called one of our timeouts, and I think that was awful use of the timeout with the 2-minute warning coming up. It was just habit. Not that we're going to pull off this comeback. I mean, the odds of that are extremely low, but we could get a huge gain right here. I see him open on the sideline. And all of a sudden, it's just clicked to me. We have some really good receivers that I was going to throw the football up to. Okay, well, there's no comeback. Pittsburgh's going to make this score look horrible. They have owned us in this game. There's a reason they're undefeated. There's a reason that they have the Heisman Trophy winner. And on the other side of the bracket, Navy's hoping that the same thing doesn't happen to them. What I find most interesting about this team is most of our offensive line still needs another year of development. It's the same thing for our defense, where there are so many players that are going to be a lot better next year, besides seniors like Joey Mance. But if I were to take you through our skill positions, all of those seniors that we have, especially fullback, running back, they're going to be gone from next year's team. Even quarterback Brian Bragg, and I'm not sure if the team's going to be better off without them or worse off, because Juwan Hicks, he is elite development. He's that quarterback I was super excited about. He still needs a lot of work. I'm just not sure if he's going to be able to get up to a Brian Bragg level. His accuracy can still get better. Quickness maxed out at 87. And so I say all that to basically say that Navy is about to lose a lot of skill positions, so Army might be the best chance at winning a national championship next year. For this year, though, Navy is our best chance at winning a national championship. Now, obviously, Army just got eliminated, so there are only ways to get it. But headed into this season, they would have been my pick between the two teams, and look at Brian Bragg exploding for 15. We need him to have a big final 5 minutes of this game. We're going to flip this run to the other side where it seemed like there'd be more space. And USC is bringing in a lot of guys to the box. Our blockers lining up, though. We're going to get 7, which we needed there. We're still down by 6 points. And to watch that ball just leave our hands with our season on the line was very scary, but it worked out. Raquel is going to get a 7. So even if we do score a touchdown, I'm not sure how much it's going to matter. Problem is, we're going to have to stop USC from getting a field goal because we're only going to have a 1-point lead. I don't know why we're doing a rocket toss in this situation. We could have just had a touchdown off of a fullback dive. And we are really battling it out versus them, but it's all about who can win up front. We shouldn't have to worry about them running it on us too much, though, as they got to get down the field. And there it is, another good gain for the Trojans. Check down gets them 10. I'm starting to get really annoyed with our defense, but we have a sack. And that is the biggest play that we could have asked for. At some point, we needed one thing to go our way. Slant is not open. Pressure is in. And this is the game right here. We have everybody backed up. They just send up a prayer. Are you kidding? They're in field goal range now. What are we supposed to do about that? We might as well just let them score a touchdown or else we're not going to be able to get the ball back. But that is such a bailout. It's exactly what happens when you play on the hardest difficulty. Though you could also say it all comes back to the fact that we needed another year of development on our defense that they just didn't get. That should have been PI. I understand that wasn't the best throw in the world, but what can you expect? Throwing the ball is not what we're used to doing. We're only doing it because we're desperate, and that might actually be something we can go back to. Hang on, I really like that look there. They give man-to-man coverage. We're going to have a mismatch. He's open again. USC is going to have to learn their lesson. We'll run that play for a 3rd time in a row. We are in hurry-up mode. We have to get it off fast, and they still will not guard Raquel. Now what we're going to do is we're going to have him go to the opposite side of the field because they're probably expecting the drag. Quick out isn't there. Scramble, not there. But our season is not over yet. We just can't take these sacks. Brian Bragg is not clutch from what we have seen so far in his career. Get out of his way. He wants the 1st down. I've been trying to do that for 3 plays in a row now. What do we got? 17 seconds on the clock. Man-to-man coverage. We should have caught that ball. Well, when all else fails, you know who's going to be on a drag route here. Is he open? He is. Come on, turn up field. We got him. We got him. We're in. USC is going down in the Cotton Bowl. Navy is headed to the semifinal. And for a team that almost missed the college football playoff, they're doing pretty well. After seeing what Pittsburgh's done to Army a couple of times, though, I am not going to be overlooking TCU, who is 14-1. The Horned Frogs might not always be in this position, but we've seen them make it to a national championship before. They average 42 points per game, and we are like 10 years into the future, maybe 15, so this could happen. For all we know, they've been a powerhouse program like the last decade. They're a 91 overall. And despite the fact that they run one of the most annoying offenses to stop, we've gotten a fumble here. I was not expecting that. I was just going to say I'm proud of the fact that we've been able to hold them to just 9 points. We've been doing a decent job on them, but now we have the football back. Not too much time left in the game, and we're going to start working on running out this clock. Brian Bragg has to be such a threat to this defense, but they've done a great job with the option. And that's why I'm really glad that Navy's got this shotgun formation in this playbook, but it won't get us the 1st anyway. Turns out we're going to get held to a 3-and-out, and that defensive stop was not it for TCU. They're going to get one more opportunity. That opportunity could literally end right here, though. 4th and 6. It's just out of reach. He could not have placed that ball better. If we had just a little bit better athletes, this game is basically over. And I just don't see us giving up our 1st touchdown of the game right here. No, it's going to be an interception. No! You know, I want to be upset at Prude, but I know for a fact that I've been focusing on just upgrading his stats to deal with his overall, so I didn't upgrade his catching. That drop might cost us a spot in the championship. I don't even know what to say. I am just so sad. The counter faked even me out. Blockers aren't going to be needed because Brian Bragg is going all the way to the house. What a play from the senior. He wants to move on. And we have literally not had a quarterback like him this whole video. He's Lamar Jackson levels of fast, but it won't matter if TCU is able to score. We need our guys to keep on hanging in there. 30 seconds left on the clock. They're at midfield. I'm willing to give up that drag underneath. And they didn't end up looking there anyway. 4th down. It's a missed throw. Bad communication. Well, this was unexpected, but we're headed to the Natty. And like I said, if it was going to be either Army or Navy that did it, with the roster Navy has, it was going to be them. You will not believe the team that we have to face, though. Undefeated, #1 Pittsburgh. It's the same team that knocked out Army. This video was first to win a championship, so Navy could win it right here. But they could also fall short, and if you've been rooting for Army, then you're really hoping that they don't pull this one off. There's no guarantees with the rosters we have next season, though, that we're even going to get back to this point. So if we're being real, this could be it. We have to capitalize on a position like this, and we're staying on our feet for a 1st. But we are trailing with a few minutes left. We've held Pittsburgh to only 21 points. I feel like that's been pretty impressive. Their defensive line just got all sorts of messed up on that play, and we're going for it all. I mean, there wasn't really a need for that, but we did decide to send it anyway. I feel like we're going to be able to hit over their defensive back. He was playing underneath for almost nobody, so as we go with the fullback dive and we get a little bit closer to scoring, this is where we pull out the QB counter, the run that worked wonders for us at the last game. We still have to stop James Abraham in this offense one final time, though, and that ball's just going to be out of reach. They're near field goal range already. If you knew how long I've already been filming this rebuild, frustration is starting to build. You would understand. So the fact that we actually got the sack there, major deal. No. We're going to call a timeout. They better take 3. But EA was just trying to cheat us out of this game here. That should not have been caught. It is so hard to beat the computer sometimes. And unfortunately, our quarterback counter play did not work the way that it has been. We also need somebody to pick him up, or else Brian Bragg's just going to have to take off. He doesn't even feel like he's that fast here. Garrison was hawking him down, but we're actually going to run the football. We only need a field goal to send things to overtime. And I figure Pittsburgh is not going to come out in defense that's prepared to stop the run, so it'll be a little bit easier to do it. Now, they brought some guys down into the box for that last one, and they're going to do it again, but it just looked like we had the numbers. So here we go. It is 3rd and 5. I'm going to step up and scramble with Brian Bragg. Do not fumble. We still have 30 seconds left on the clock, and I don't think Burkell's one of our faster running backs, but there's a lot of space out there, and he'll also be able to step out of bounds. I cannot be shaking in a moment like this, but I am, because so much has gone into this video, and we're so close. But I don't know if putting it all on our fullback in the final 14, 13 seconds is going to be worth it. We have one timeout. Can we get lined up and snap this ball, please? He's going to be in. He's going to be in. Touchdown, Navy. 8 seconds on the clock. National championship is loading. And we have done it. What a rewarding video to actually be able to win with the triple option. I didn't cheat out of it. That's what I typically do. I just turn off the triple option playbook. I tell you all that we're going to air raid or something. But no, not this time. We stuck to our roots. We followed every rule that we should have as a military school, besides just signing a bunch of 4 stars. That needed to happen. We even got a 5-star. It is officially in the history books. Navy has been able to win it all. And the man that was able to lead us there was Brian Bragg. He ended up rushing for the most yards in his career this season. Obviously, he played the most games. And I think I still want to go through one more season, since I was just prepared to do it anyway, and see how these schools would perform. Currently, the series is 6-4 with Navy. It looks like both of those guys are going to leave. No, one of them decides to stay. And for Army, they also have a load of players getting drafted into the NFL. I'm just going to go through these off seasons like I would have if we still had to play another year. I'm just really curious what the fully polished rosters I've been building for would look like. If we're putting this many players into the NFL between these two programs before next year, I don't even know what next season will be, because a lot more guys will be getting drafted. So it's time for me to just get the lock in one final time and really see what all we can do. By the time it was all said and done, Navy's got a 99 overall linebacker again. We got 2 defensive backs as a 98 overall. We got a wide receiver as a 97. There's a lot of talent. 91 overall quarterback, some good running backs, and I'm expecting Marcus Dial to lead us to great things. We had just moved him over from wide receiver, and his stats are pretty solid. Everybody's stats are good, though, by this point in the video. Army's overalls are going to look very similar to Navy's. 2 tight ends that are both above a 95. Quarterback is now a 91. And in case you're wondering, headed into the year, both of them 99 overall teams, but Army is 7 rankings lower. So we'll see how this season goes and if these teams are going to meet in the conference championship again. It looks like they are. Army ranked 5th, Navy ranked 8th, so I'm going to assume that Navy picked up a loss, which is exactly what happened. Besides the fact that they only beat Kent State by 8 points, they lost to Notre Dame by 2, so that does make sense. While Army went out and beat every single team on their schedule pretty easily besides North Texas. It was these 2 teams at the top of the American and then everybody else. And I actually think both of these teams could still get into the playoff if they just split this series coming up. They're going to play twice. For the first matchup, it's a neutral site. And I kid you not, the final score was 6-3. What that means is Navy's picked up a second loss. If they want to get into the college football playoff, they're going to have to win the conference championship. But that might not happen. Army has a chance to end this game with a 57-yard field goal, and they missed it. Well, they are headed to overtime. There's still an opportunity for Navy. But after Army scored on their first drive of overtime, the midshipmen are back in a position where it's not looking as good, and they throw an interception. That's it. Army is going to actually tie the series up between these two schools 6-6 in this video. They have now beat each other an even amount of times. We're not going to get a tiebreaker for it unless Navy somehow found their way into the college football playoff and then we got a rematch again, but Army's on a bye. And if we look at the top 12, Navy fell down to number 15, where their season would end with a 42-17 win over Fresno State. And I'm not sure they really care much anyway, because they're coming off of a national championship. I think with another seasons, players like Jawan Hicks would have been even better. They could have seen more success with a little bit more development to their guys. But there was also a good amount of seniors that were out there, and the same thing is true for Army. 2 guys over 1,500 rushing yards, 20 rushing touchdowns for Ben Alvarez. And who cares about the receiving stats? We should have been looking at our defensive stats this entire time. 14.5 sacks for senior Eric Dole. He's basically averaging a sack per game, which carried Army to a spot in the national championship. We just simmed the first couple. They went the right way. TCU must be some powerhouse because they are back. And it looks like Army is going to have an opportunity to end this video with the national championship too. Last season, it felt like Navy's roster was a little bit better. This year, it probably goes to the Black Knights. I mean, they beat them twice, but you see the spot that they're in. National championship on the line, down by 12, 4th and goal, gets in. But if that defense was ever going to carry, now would be the time because it has got to get a stop. There's no purpose in having all these great guys on the field if they can't win. And this is it. 3rd and 8. The Horned Frogs are going to be throwing the football, and they get it out on the run. Can they make the tackle? They can't. Maybe we should have just clicked on TCU is going to win this national championship. I really thought we were about to see both teams have success, but unfortunately for Army, they didn't. So the most that they can be proud about from this video is the fact that they won 4 straight conference championships. And I know this concept was a little bit different. I've not done it in a couple of years, but if you all enjoy this, I'll do it with more teams in the future. Just know it takes a while, so you'll have to really enjoy it. Let me know in the comments and check out some of my other content.